This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakelin.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking. And Neil Fawcett in the third chair.
You know, guys, I remember the days when I was smart.
With contribution from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming out of the speed of the UNSC Gettysburg, fused with the Ascendant Justice, making a slip space jump out of the Reach system. Today's edition is brought to you by our patrons over at Patreon, those guys and gals who helped us shatter our final goal, and so now we're going to have to think up all new goals, and you can be a part of helping us achieve those. Today we'd like to thank in particular Brian Bookstrucker, Jahan Kargar, I totally butchered that one, Matthew Ledgerwood, Nubadish, and Edward Palace. Thank you and everyone like you, and go ahead and join them and help us make the podcast everything it can be and more. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host. Today our panelists are Russ Wallace Jenkins Wakelin and Chief Creative Officer at Spartan Games and Lord of the Resin, Neil Forzanadama Fawcett. Let's begin. Issue number 1. On November 15th, 2001, electronic gaming was changed forever with the introduction of a now classic title, Halo Combat Evolved. It was released on the Xbox, with the intention of a Mac and Windows release later in the year. But when Microsoft acquired the developers, Bungie, the future was changed forever. The game featured many unique or refined elements that have come to identify the first-person shooter genre and brought it to near total domination of the style. Question. If, when setting the difficulty of your Halo campaign mode game, you wanted to run with the big dogs at legendary level, what element of your difficulty icon would be unique to that level? Halo Reach Russ.
The skull.
Spartan Strike Neil.
Beats the hell out of me.
I can't believe Wakelin got it. It takes away all of the joy of telling Neil that he's wrong.
Ha!
Well,
Halo, hello.
Yeah, hello, that's right. A skull, of course. Easy was a shield, normal was a shield with a sword, hard was a shield with 2 swords, and legendary was a shield with 2 swords and a skull. How grim-dark of them.
Right.
Russ.
He has to win something.
That's right.
I'm going to change. All the answers are now going to be changed. In 2009, Spartan Games introduced its second miniatures game franchise, Firestorm Armada. Featuring epic clashes of huge starfaring warships, the game was brutal and bloody and scratched an itch that had gone unscratched for a very long time. But the game established itself on its own strengths, one of which was the depth of background and story behind the entire universe. Question. Although there were only 6 factions at launch, which gave it a score of 150 on the Wakelin Law of Factions, there are now masses of allies and spunky rogues ripping through the space waves. How many factions are there in Firestorm Armada? Works Raptor Wakelin.
It's a ringer for Neil. I'm going to go with 13.
13. Infected Fawcett. Actually, you need to actually name them all.
I can actually, I want to say any number I want because I'll just make some up. I want to say 15.
Good point. I'm going to jump in there and say, no, I'm going to say wrong quickly. Okay. Now, by my count off your website, there are currently 24, 23 if we don't count trading companies, factions that you can see in Firestorm Armada. 24. I don't know of any other game that can even come close. Issue number 3, which makes you both wrong, but I mean, come on, 24, that's pretty amazing. As the gaming world gets more robust and varied with each passing month, with a new mini Kickstarter or a strange new genre or IP showing up on an almost daily basis, trying to come up with terrain for every different game can be quite challenging. Someone should come up with a versatile, really great terrain system that could be any scale, any genre, and any size. Now that would be versatile. Question. The word versatility comes originally to us from the Latin word versatalis, which means what? Resourceful Russ.
Flexible.
Nimble-minded Neil.
Oh, come on. Flexible. He beat me to it.
And actually, that means he beat you to being wrong. It comes from versatalis, to turn easily. Come on, guys. It's Latin. Issue number 4. Many of the aspects of Halo Combat Evolved were seen as central to the success of the franchise. The designers at Bungie had very good reasons for doing what they did, and they are often quoted by other designers as to the theories behind the many choices that they made. Question. What is referred to when one of the original designers of the Halo franchise uses the term Golden Triangle? R.I.T. Russ.
I'm going to go with the shield and health indicator.
No more Neil.
Isn't that the name that McDonald's wanted to go for? Then it went for Golden Arches or something?
It could well be, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, wrong! The weapon combat triumvirate of weapons, grenades, melee. Which was central to the game's action, which makes you both wrong, and now it's just the joy is just sucked out of it.
Well, no, that's wrong, because it's got to be the square, because you missed out harsh language.
Oh, yes, good point.
That would be if you're playing with Russ on a Kid Russ day. That's it for now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G.
Hello.
Hey, and welcome to episode 162, Craig.
162.
Of the D6 Generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
I am Craig Gallant.
And I'm Neil Fawcett.
Hey, Neil. Neil, welcome to the show.
Hi.
It's great to have you back on again.
Welcome back, Neil.
Yes, Neil, of course, is the man.
I knew that.
The man, the myth, the legend behind, of course, Spartan Games. So, Neil, it's so great to have you on the show today. We're going to talk with Neil about, of course, the State of Spartan Games, all the excitement you guys have been working on, and, of course, this whole Halo announcement thing, right? That's pretty exciting.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. I'm still getting over the man, the myth, and legend bit, actually. I like to think of myself as a leg end in my own lunchtime.
Yes.
But, I'm going to go with what you said. It sounds better.
It just flows because that is, that's how we view you here in the United States. I don't know what they call you in England, but here in the United States, a legend is definitely what I would use. That's what I would use.
Absolutely.
That's
how we see it. That's how we see it.
That's what we're going to go with, and we're sticking to it. So before we get to all that stuff,
I
go ahead.
appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So before we get to all that, though, we do have, Craig, some little business to take care of. So we did announce our contest winners last episode.
That's very true. It took a while, but we did it.
So we got to kind of, cool our jets on contests for a minute here, but we'll get back to those next episode. But, Craig, we also record a Lost Chapters. Do you remember what the last Lost Chapter was about?
Well, I'm hoping due to Eddie's in the time-space continuum, because he just can't get out of there, that it's going to be, or that it was about the Galaxy of the Firestorm Armada franchise.
Yeah, all those factions you mentioned, Craig.
The different I didn't mention
Craig's
them.
going to name them all.
McNerdigan mentioned them. I didn't mention them.
You just got to name them all then.
You want me to name them all? Because I have them written down in a little document here. I can.
All right. No. During the Lost Chapter.
24 of them. It'll be a while.
If you want to hear all the 24 factions, you got to go tune into the Lost Chapter.
That's right.
That's what you got to do. So, Craig, if someone wants to learn more about how they can get the Lost Chapter, how do they do that?
Well, let's be honest, Russ. The best way to get the Lost Chapter is actually to join us as a patron over at patreon.com. A whole bunch of people just jumped on there very, very recently, pushed us over the top of our latest goal, which was awesome. So a huge hearty thank you to every one of our patrons who through Patreon is supporting the show, helping us out. It was awesome. It was humbling. And you can join them by going to patreon.com or going to our website at thed6generation.com, and on the right-hand margin there, you'll see the Patreon logo. You can click on it. Go see a lovely little video with, it's lovely except for Russ and I.
Right.
And, very nicely shot, I might add. And so,
awesome.
it'll explain to you what Patreon is and what's going on with that. And we will now be coming up with a whole new set of goals.
Right. Because
we, with your help, blew through goals we never thought we would achieve.
That's right.
So that's the best way to get. And if you join Patreon for $2 an episode or more, you get access to the entire catalog of the Lost Chapters.
That's right.
And so that would be the way that we would appreciate it the most.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, what's it time now for, Craig?
Now it's time for
Achievements in Gaming.
It is indeed. Now, this is the part of the show we talk about what we've been playing lately. Neil, I know you're mostly busy designing games. Do you get a chance to play any games?
I do.
What have you been playing lately?
The last couple of weeks I've been playing Halo Risk.
Oh, nice.
there you go, getting in the mood.
See, this is why, though, we need you guys to make this, because we need something a little more gamery than, Halo Risk. We need to take it to the next level. See what I'm saying?
No. I bought it at a war game show, and my son wanted to play it, and my daughter makes me play the Lords of War game. She got into the card game, so she really likes that. Mm-hmm. So, which was quite funny. We were at a gaming event, and I was there with my games, and then she just vanished, and I just said, it's just, where Claire is, and they said, oh, she's round the corner gaming, and when I went round the corner, she was actually on somebody else's stand demoing their game.
There you go.
To which she then apologised to me, which was kind of funny. But she said that my stuff was too complicated for her, and she liked the card game. So I've been playing that with her. She kind of likes that, but it's good fun.
Nice.
Well, most of the time my games tend to start but never finish, because I always kind of end up going off on a tangent with something, or somebody will say, let's try this set of rules out and we'll do this. And so I've been playing lots and lots of bits of Halo games, but kind of like every now we kind of get to it, and then I'll go to one of the designers and we'll spend a bit of time evaluating a certain set of rules. And then I might go back to the table and roll some more dice. So, yeah, a little bit truncated at times, but generally speaking, it's been fun. Halo Risk has probably been the thing I've played the most lately.
Nice. So, what are some of the unique elements of Halo Risk that make it, obviously beyond the theme, that make it a little different than the regular Risk?
Well, to be honest with you, it's like the have you played the Legacy version of it? The one where you modify.
Yes. Does it have that element to it?
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's quite pretty. I mean. It's more a case of it's something I can play with my son. He really likes it. He can kind of get hold of it. He's not thoroughly into wargaming yet. He likes the toys. He thinks they're really cool, but he's not really into wargaming yet. So it's kind of helping bridge that with him.
Great. Now, how old is he?
13.
13. Okay, cool. Very good.
So I keep trying to take him to the dark side, but my wife keeps getting in the way and saving him.
Oh, see, that's
the relationship I think I'm going to have between my son and my wife.
Yeah, see, I've already thoroughly corrupted my daughters. You just got to start really young, and when your wife's out of town, that's how I did. So
there's the key right there.
That's right. So
don't tell mom.
That's right. Don't
exactly
like the commercial. They don't tell mom.
Don't tell your mother.
Don't tell your mother. That's how it is. Here's some models to paint. Don't tell your mother.
I gave my son a Tootsie Roll today and told him that. And his response was, ooh, is this a secret? Which immediately makes me think my wife is doing things behind my back and saying, don't tell your father.
Like what, Reese?
Exactly.
What kind of secret?
Yeah, what kind of secret, Reese? Please
when was the
elaborate.
last time you had a secret to keep?
I'd like to be on record to say I don't even know what a Tootsie Roll is.
It's a little candy.
It's chocolate.
It's a tiny little chocolate candy.
Chocolate-ish.
Chewy. It's a chewy chocolate candy.
A chocolate-like substance, really. So,
okay.
Thank you. So, Craig,
I'm none the wiser, but I don't really care.
You're not missing out much.
Yeah. It's I sensed that.
Yeah.
So, I tried to cut it off at the pass with a really short "it's candy."
Craig, what have you been playing lately?
Well, it's funny you should mention that.
All right.
We're gonna be the victims of a bit of a time warp here.
Yeah.
Due to many of the different things that occurred trying to get Neil, not only Neil, but the game designer of a lot of the new stuff that Spartan is putting out, Derek Sinclair, joined us for the meat of today's episode.
Right.
And so I've been playing a game with models that didn't exist in my hands when we recorded other parts of the podcast. But anyway, I've been playing Planetfall.
Yeah.
And I have been hinting that I was on my way to play Planetfall for about 3 episodes. So, Neil, thank you very much for that little package. And I played 3 games last night. I played one with our friend Ryan, who then had to leave because he works nights, so he comes a little early, and we play a game on The Verge. And then 2 with Russ. Mm-hmm. And I loved the games when I was playing them, Neil, but I need to be honest with you. I didn't fully appreciate them until today when somebody emailed me and said, because we have a big email thread for local gamers, and somebody said, oh yeah, you guys played a game. I want to hear Craig's views, because Russ went on and was like, I love it. It's great. And that's all he said. So somebody said, I want to hear Craig's views. So I went on with the full intention of doing a short email about what I enjoyed about the games last night. That email ended up being 3 pages long about how much I loved the games that Russ and I played last night, and how many aspects of that game I just thought that the new rule systems and the little tweaks to the Spartan engines. I think, I mean, I don't want to fawn, Neil, but I think you hit it out of the park with Planetfall. I had an absolute blast.
No, I think Derek and the guys, when we first started looking at that one, Derek had some sort of very keen ideas on things he wanted to achieve with it, and I kind of let the guys run off and just and do their thing, and I think they've done a fantastic job with it. I mean, I just love playing it myself. I think it's one of those kind of crazy things. It does what it says on the can. It's easy to learn. It's that that wonderful thing. When people say easy to learn, but it takes a lifetime to master, sort of thing. And it is one of those games, I think, and it is one of those rule sets that is very easy to embrace. But you can just spend an awful lot of time learning how to be really good with your models,
right,
and with your game. And I think over the next couple of months we got some really cool box sets coming out. I finished today the release documents on the first 3 of the Leviathans. So I'm really looking forward to getting the big boys in people's hands.
Yeah, nice.
And then of course, then we got the aerial. Then we're following up with the aerial boxes and the command boxes and the recon boxes. And then we've got the heavy infantry, and we've just finished a load of new scenery stuff. And no, it's really it's a great game. It's good fun, and I'm really pleased you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
And
which side did you play? Who did you play?
Well, I have a huge Dendrenzi fleet, and so starting with the starter box, I have to admit that I absolutely love the Directorate models.
Yes.
Across the I mean, one of the many amazing things in the game is how different each faction looks, and I have to imagine they're playing different, because from Russ and our game last night, the Aquans and the Directorate played totally differently, and yet at the same time felt very balanced, which was awesome. But the design theme of each race carried through all of their different vehicles is amazing. And so I really, really, really like the Directorate, so I jumped on the Directorate.
Oh, that's good. Well, good choice. They've got a fantastic Leviathan, so I'll look out for that over the next couple of days. There's some great pictures going online. I think, the Planetfall rules. I mean, that was definitely the brainchild of Derek. The actual game itself is, there's a guy at my place. We call him Crispy, but it's Spartan Chris. I mean, that's his game. He's very. He really got behind it, and what's staggering about Planetfall is that entire range of models, every single one is built by one designer.
Wow.
Yep. Wow.
He just built the whole thing, and he's like a machine. The guy is just his vision of what he wants, how he wanted the aesthetic to be across the models is pretty. He's very incredibly solid and robust on it. He knows exactly what he wants them to be. So from when he started building the designs for whether it was Directorate or Relthosa, I mean, the Relthosa was the ones he spent the most time on, because he felt the need to get them right and to manifest them properly. And of course, one of the design limitations, but one of the design concerns he had is that everything he had to try and create, mainly with the infantry, because we're very proud of our infantry, was that we had to then, we were thinking of what Spec Ops was going to bring all the time. So we had to kind of make the 10 mil, but think of what the 28 mil hooks would be. So that was a fascinating process. So, but no, I'm incredibly proud of his work. He's played an absolute blinder with that one.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
And the infantry are, for 10 millimeter, the infantry are insane.
You can see the webbing on the Aquan Prime's feet.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not making that up. It's awesome.
No.
And
Well, I mean, you went to we've got the officers and the heavy weapon teams and the breaching teams and all. There's a whole ton more infantry on their way.
Oh, I can't wait.
So there's I don't quite know what I can't remember what Derek calls the one of the new helixes he created. But of course, the beauty of the way that he's created Planetfall is that you've got the core helixes, but everybody likes choice, and as you said, there's a lot of factions, because let's face it, galaxies tend to be full of an awful lot of people kicking the crap out of each other in science fiction. There generally isn't just a couple of races or three races. It tends to be quite busy. Yeah. Well, mine is anyway. When I created Fawcett, I wanted it to be busy.
Right. Yeah.
And a big part of that was making sure that we could allow all of those alliances to fight together. And then for the first half of this year, it'll be getting all of the Helix components out for the Core 6, but then the rest of the year will be establishing all of the other races as full forces in their own right. So,
nice.
So things like the RSN, the Vaydrith, and everybody else they're all coming as complete forces. By the end of the year, there'll be a monstrous amount of model. A huge amount of choice for the customer, and
now,
of course.
That's amazing.
I talk too much.
No. What you do is you talk not as much as I want, but just enough to keep my questions going, so that I just keep wanting to ask more. And it's achievements in gaming, but I can't stop myself. So very quickly. So is the goal then to have all of not only the 6 core, but these major ally races as well with full armies, with a core helix and everything by the end of the year?
That's the goal.
Right.
There's a lot of work to do that. I would anticipate by the end of the year we will have. I would hope we'd be somewhere in the region of 10 to 12.
Wow.
Races that are complete armies.
Wow.
And the rest will come out the year after. Basically, it kind of maps what we're doing with Firestorm Armada, because Armada's an incredibly strong game for us, and the bedrock of that game is fantastic, and we're now fleshing all of those alliance nations out in spaceship form to become complete fleets in their own right.
Wow.
So we're very busy with that. So the next announcement that we're out is we've got Turquoise, not Turquoise, we've got the rest of the RSN coming out. Then the one after that, we've got the Turquoise box has been announced, the new Hawker stuff, the new Works Raptor stuff.
Wow.
And we'll just keep doing that month on month for the rest of the year. And then, of course, in Planetfall, we'll be doing exactly the same. So, yeah, it's just going to grow. It's going to grow massively. It's going to be a very large, complete gaming environment, from spaceships right the way through. That's the plan. It's always been the plan, and we're delivering on it.
That is awesome.
That's awesome, Neil.
That's one of the things on the forums that are getting churned through right now, and that's an answer that's going to have gamers squeeing all over the internet. But anyway, back to achievements, Russ. So that's all I've played, actually, is Planetfall. So, Russ, what have you played?
Well, I've been playing also lots of Planetfall. The 2 games with Craig. I started painting my guys, and I have to say, Neil, I just fell in love with the models instantly, but I also love the rules, and we'll talk more about this game in the future for sure, but it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So then also playing a lot of Imperial Assault. So, Neil, are you familiar with Imperial Assault?
I'm not. What's Imperial Assault?
This is basically this is the Star Wars version of Fantasy Flight's Descent, but you're now in Star Wars. So imagine a dungeon crawling game, but instead of playing, clerics and paladins, you're playing Wookiees and Jedi and fighting various forces of the Imperium. So lots of fun with that. Got 2
Not
games.
the Imperium.
Imperial, yeah.
It's the Empire. It's the Empire. We are not going to get into this debate again, Russ.
All right.
The internet beat you last time.
No, the internet was wrong about that. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Any case.
That sounds cool.
Right, exactly. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
So played 2 more games of that. We are now 3 games away from finishing our first campaign.
Which cannot be true.
Yes, it is true.
It can't be true.
Well, I may be lying, but we're getting close to the end.
I think you're lying. I mean, we've played 6 games, and we just broke into the second tier of rewards.
No.
And there's 3 tiers. So
yeah, we're at the end of... In our next mission, they'll be picking Tier 3 and Tier 2 mixed rewards.
Really? So does it really speed up?
Yeah.
Towards the end?
I don't know. I guess we're farther than you guys are. I don't know.
I think you're 1 game further along, but I didn't think we were even close to done.
Your Overlord's probably cheating you more. You just don't know it.
No, that's true. Well, we know he was cheating with the probe droids.
Right. So played some of that. Then I got to play the XCOM board game. So this is an interesting amalgam of technology. Yeah, like that. An amalgam of technology and board games. So it's based on the XCOM video game, which is the squad-based, oh my god, aliens are invading the world, so we'll set up a super talented strike force and go attack them as they land and take them out. So this is, though, instead of being the squad-based version of this is the part of the game. So in the video game, there's kind of 2 parts to the game. There's the first part most people remember very, very well, which is the squad-based combat where you get on it and it's turn-based, and you move a guy behind cover and another guy behind cover and trying to get angles. This, though, then after that, you go back up to sort of this macro view of the world, and you're managing resources and deciding where to send your fighter jets to try to intercept the UFOs, and who are you going to train, and where are you going to fight. So this board game does that part. So it's got the map of the world out there, and 4 players are playing different elements. So one of you is the commander, kind of overseeing everything. One of you is in charge of the squads, sending people out. One of you is in charge of the Air Force and doing different roles. But then there is you have to use a computer with the game. So there's a free app available for iOS and Android and PC, and you run this on the side, and this app walks you through each step of the game. So it's fully co-op. So it'll say, Commander, your turn. Choose some tactics cards or whatever, and you'll pick your cards real quick, and you'll have like 30 seconds to do it, and they'll say next phase. And so each phase is timed, and you'll have to be very, very quick and program your moves in. And then at the end of all of that, it then runs through and tells you what happened that turn based on what you do. It's very hectic, very frenetic, and it's a lot of fun, though. We had a really great time with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, definitely I would like to try that some more. That was fun. Also played Roll Through the Galaxy, which is the dice version of Race for the Galaxy, which is a very fun game. Now,
is it Roll Through the Galaxy or Roll for the Galaxy?
I think it's Roll for the Galaxy.
Okay.
Because like Race for the Galaxy, it's Roll for the Galaxy.
No, that's what I thought, but you said Roll Through the Galaxy,
I probably did.
so I was just looking for a clarification.
I just needed... So when Tom Vassell was on the show, he mentioned this game and how much fun he liked it. And it is really, really fun. I think I like it more than the card game. So this is going to replace the card game for me. But the iconography in this game is still very tough to teach, I think.
Yeah, it's Roll for the Galaxy.
Yes, thank you. So it's very tough to teach. But otherwise, I really like it a lot, and it totally replaces the card game.
Once again, yet another card game.
Yes, replaced with
dethroned
dice.
by its own dice game version.
The dice mechanic is really, I'm starting to fall in love with it. I don't know what it is, but it works. Now, Craig, I got to get you this game to the table with you.
Right.
This is Xia, XIA, Legends of a Drift System. So this game was started on Kickstarter, but you can now get it at various stores and on Amazon and places around the internet.
Yeah.
What's cool about this game is because it's a Kickstarter game, it has amazing components. So it comes with 21 pre-painted ships.
Yeah. The ships and the coins are amazing. I was underwhelmed by the cardboard. Yeah. Although the map hexes were amazing.
Yeah, the cards themselves have a lot of artwork on them, but the ships look amazing. It also has a set of metal coins for money, which look fantastic.
Which are really cool and futuristic looking.
Yes. And then you get you're playing on a hex-based universe that grows as you go. But this is not a 4X game. You're not controlling a whole fleet of ships. You control one ship. So you're a space captain. So think like Merchants and Marauders or Firefly, the board game.
It reminded me a lot of Firefly.
Situation, yes. But it's a full sandbox game. So what I mean by that is you can go out and do whatever you want. You can maybe go on missions to get fame, and your goal is to get fame points, victory points. So you might go on a mission, or you might go out and try to upgrade your ship, or you might go out and attack someone and blow them up. You might go out and start trading goods back and forth to get fame points. It's a bunch of different things you can do. Amazingly fun game. The components are great. Really, really easy to teach. Really enjoying it a lot. I played it with both my daughters twice. My oldest daughter is completely addicted to it now. She'll play it every time I'll sit down long enough for her to play with me. And Played it with a bunch of gamers week before last, and they loved it. It was an instant hit. So really like that one as well. So that's Zia XIA, Legends of a Drift System.
Sounds good.
So that is what we're playing. What about modeling? Neil, you built any models or painted anything lately?
I put some Halo ships together the other day.
All right.
See, that's what people want to hear about. How do they go together? Are they plastic?
These ones were the test scopes. So basically, we started cutting the steel on the tools for the models. So before we did that, we had the engineering profiles to look at and to check that all of the joints worked and things like that. So it was a validation process to make sure that they went together properly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because obviously, when you start cutting the steel, it's a bit of a big thing to mess up.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was it. So I was putting together Covenant heavy cruisers and actually, some of the models are quite easy. Things like the Covenant heavy corvettes are two parts, so they just clip together quite easily. So it was mainly checking the carrier for the UNSC and the heavy cruiser for the Covenant was just the ones I wanted to just test in my head. And then I was playing around with some sort of Spartans and some UNSC Marines and grunts and things, just seeing how they took paint.
Uh-huh.
So
what you're saying is you have some infantry models.
I had lots of infantry models.
Interesting.
Nice.
I had many, and actually this morning was quite cool because we finished the Scorpion tank. So that was kind of cool as well.
Awesome.
The Scorpion tanks are nice.
Now, roughly how long in inches is the Scorpion tank?
Man,
Russ, if you hadn't giggled, Russ, I bet I could have got it out of him.
I know, but that was
come on. That was Russ trying to be nice. That's what that.
Oh, that was good. But you just weren't good enough. No.
I was going to say it's just the right size, right, Neil?
Yeah, I know. It's just perfect. I know it's 2:00 in the morning for me, but come on, I'm not that stupid. I know I started this by saying I used to be smarter. But I'm not necessarily saying I was stupid, but come on.
Right. Okay. Misunderstand.
Right.
Yeah, play the game.
Thought you're somebody else.
No, things like that. Actually, don't think what else I put it. Well, I was putting together some a Relsosa because I'm actually that I wanted to play around with the Relsosa. I wanted to try painting some of my Relsosa, which actually I made a complete shambles of it. So I kind of stopped and went back to the Ceruleans. I just couldn't do it. I was trying my best, but I'm just terribly out of practice for painting these days.
Oh. Out of curiosity, how much, how many parts are the two big ships for the Halo game? Are they a lot of parts?
No, they're incredibly well designed. Actually, they're the battle cruiser, the Covenant one. The Covenant are really simple. The curvature pattern of the holes it makes them incredibly friendly to having less parts. I think if people want to put the UNSC will probably end up being the ones that have got the most parts in them. Although I haven't said that the UNSC frigate is one piece. But the cruiser, the UNSC Marathon cruiser is probably about 6 or 7 pieces. The carrier is probably about sort of 6 or 7, 8 pieces.
Wow.
And the Covenant heavy cruiser is. I think it's if you count the little fins as separate pieces on the front and then go underneath it, then the whole thing's probably about 7 pieces. Actually, they are very, very, very easy assembly on these ones. So the ground tanks they take a little bit more thought process because if you look at a Scorpion, that's got 4 sets of tracks.
Right.
And when we made that, they were in they go together. I think there's 3 pivot points on the turret on that thing. It's sort of it's pretty cool actually. That's going to I'm very very excited by that one actually. That's a pretty cool model. Anyway, I digress. Spaceships first. Ground stuff later.
Nice.
No, people are very excited about the both.
So
Yeah, no, it's well, good. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, we are stupidly excited. As last time we spoke, I talked about that, as did Derek.
Or next time we speak.
Yes, later this episode, as a matter of fact.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely.
No, it's okay. It's a pretend fiction.
It's a time issue, really.
Yeah, everybody knows it's something. It's okay.
I think it's pretty impressive that you managed to invent time travel. So well done. Well done, you.
We will do anything it takes to get the podcast right, including break the laws of time and space.
Right. So, Craig, what have you been painting lately?
Well, it's funny you should ask. I have been assembling more of my N-scale buildings, and of course now I can reveal that all of these N-scale buildings are in the plan of building an entire 4x6 foot 10 millimeter city where every building is actually a fully painted and fully realized 3-dimensional building. So I did it again. I got all nutty and I went and ordered more buildings from Japan because believe it or not, even paying for shipping, they are like half the price of what you would pay in America. So, and a quick shout out to Hobby Search, which is the company that I've gotten most of my buildings through. The shipping, $32 shipping to get 10 buildings from Japan, which is like ridiculous shipping, considering in America to get it overseas, you would pay at least double that. I mean, you choke on shipping when you're doing international shipping from America now. And I got this giant package in 3 days from Japan.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That was pretty amazing, and the buildings are awesome. So I'm putting together all kinds of factories and office buildings and stuff like that. So that and I've secured myself a 3-dimensional, fully painted 10 millimeter city base table with roads and highways and stuff. So when I get that, it's going to be an amazing table for about 1/3 of our games. So.
Well, I look forward to seeing pictures. That sounds cool.
Oh, I really hope it all comes together.
We have a few of those on the Twitter, so if people are following us.
Yeah, there are a few pictures of some of the buildings on Twitter. Yep. So I did all those, and then same thing with Russ is talking about with Planetfall. I got a Directorate Core Helix, and I painted all of them up to a game tabletop standard. I'm not done with them yet. I just did a base coat. But that's 5 buggies, these awesome little flamer buggies, 6 stands of these super detailed infantry, 3 medium tanks, which are awesome, big giant bulbous turrets that, kicked Russ's butt, 2 cyber warfare tanks that look like very cool, hard sci-fi kind of thing, 1 big giant heavy tank. And then I also did most of the work on a heavy support Helix, which is 3 tank hunters, a drone launcher with 2 drones, and a heavy tank, and my Works Raptor Recon Helix, which is my allies, which is 3 interceptor fighters and 5 light recon tanks. And all of that, they're about half done, but it was in 2 days I did all of those models. So once again, painting at this scale with models of this quality goes super fast and is super rewarding. So that's been a blast. Indeed. Actually, I'm not. The only thing that I'm going on vacation in 3 days, and I'll be away, and I won't be able to do any hobbying, and that's the only thing I'm regretting about going on vacation. It's like right now, I'm like I've got the momentum built. I'm like, oh, I want to finish these, and then I'm going to have to put them aside for a week.
Oh my! Well, did you actually manage to sleep at all? I mean, that's sort of...
I did. Yeah. Well, yeah. I've been trying to be better at sleeping and not painting into like 2 or 3 in the morning, but I will admit that I pushed it a little bit one night with the models. Yeah,
that was pretty hardcore.
Funny, I was talking to the guy who painted. I've just had one of the new director at Leviathan painted, and I kind of I gave it to the painter to do, and then when I spoke to him about it, I said, how was it? He said, well, I took it home and I started undercoating it. And then I couldn't stop, so I just kept going. And he painted for about 9, and he said he just went for like 9 hours straight with it.
Oh, wow. I would love to have those that kind of time back again. I remember those days.
Well, my eyesight can't last that long. I just
yeah, right.
I couldn't stare at things that long.
So,
Russ, what have you been doing, Russ?
Well, just about the same. I did get a chance to. Well, see, here's my mistake. I was priming some more models in my Imperial Assault set. And then I cranked out Lord Vader, which hardly counts really because he's black. So you dry brush and paint a lightsaber red and you're done. But then I had fully intended to go on and crank out a bunch of other stuff in there. But then our Planetfall stuff arrived. So I did manage to finish Lem, who is a little halfling bard from Pathfinder. So I got him done for Adam. But then all of our Planetfall stuff came, and I also started in on my core Helix. Now I got the core Helix, and I got another Helix, and then I got the Ally pack there. And I was going to do what you did, Craig. My original plan was assemble it all, base coat it, and do just enough stuff on them so that at least all be sort of kind of painted. Yeah. But what happened was I primed the core Helix, started dry brushing them, and fell in love with the light skimmers and felt I had to finish them. So I finished the light skimmers, really liked them, finished the missile pods, finished the crystal drop thingies there that crash into the ground and take laser fire and splinter it at wherever angle you want, which is awesome. Then I got all those built. Then, though, I didn't get to my medium. I got my medium tanks assembled and primed, and then I got my infantry sort of dry brush and close. But I still have the larger tanks. Still have about 3 more models in the core Helix, but as credit, they go really, really fast, which is nice. So I'm looking forward to just blasting through these things, and they look. I just think they're fantastic. They look great. Had a blast painting.
The Aquan Recon tanks, the skimmers, they're amongst one of my favourite models, and they're small but perfectly formed. Those ones,
and they have little spots. They kind of just, sometimes you look at a model and it just calls to you what to paint what. It's just like, I know if I hit these 3 or 4 spots a certain way, it's going to just be awesome. And that's exactly what happened. It's like popped. I'm like, oh, these are exactly what I wanted to have to come out. So
the thing is, I think one of the things about them is that Chris spent quite a bit of time chatting to painters and things, and sort of trying to get a feel for, because obviously, as we all know, with models, there's a couple of ways of making models. You either make them plain and then get a really good painter to paint a load of detail on, or you paint them with enough detail that you know that a painter who doesn't have to be brilliant can come along and make a good job of it. And I think the Planetfall models, they tick that box of being a good level of detail that you don't have to be a stunning painter to make them look good.
Well, that's what, Neil, you mentioned that. I think it's a great example because I love, if there's enough detail and texture on a model, you can get away with some really simple techniques and the model can look fantastic. And this is, so I was looking at some of the pictures of Craig's directorate stuff before they actually, he painted it. And I'm looking on the box and I'm seeing like the little hexagrams. It's like etched into the hull. There's like these little hexagons all over it. And I'm like, wow, that is some amazing brushwork. I wonder if Craig's going to go that hardcore because I know Craig could freehand that if he wanted to. And then I look at his and I see all the hexagons. I'm like, holy crap, Craig, you freehanded them. No, they're all pre-etched into the hull. He just did a dry brush. I'm like, oh, man, that's amazing. At that scale, that's just totally unexpected. It's awesome. So they look great.
Well, like I said, well, I want to tell you they're good models because they're my models, but sort of,
I know we're fawning, but it's true.
They genuinely are.
They really are.
There's no cheat with them. What you see is what you get, sort of thing. They're a great scale. If the model's supposed to have 5 or 6 crew members inside it, it actually looks as if it could have 5 or 6 crew members.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
That's awesome.
That's the thing. They're big and beefy, and they do the business.
Right.
Yeah. Very nice.
So what about other stuff, other random geekery? So Neil, you seen any good geeky shows or read any good geeky books or watched a geeky movie, anything like that?
Do I've been watching actually me and my son have got into a TV program over in the States called About a Boy, which I don't know if you've seen it, but we've been really enjoying that. That was I think that started off as a Nick Hornby book in England and then got turned into a relatively average movie, but then it's been turned into quite a fun TV series in the States. So we've been enjoying that. My son's a big fan of The Flash and Agent Carter, so we watch that every time it comes out.
Oh, nice choices.
So there's that. Me and my daughter have just started watching the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy TV series.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
Oh, classic.
Yep.
Because she announced that she wanted a TV program to watch with me because Daniel had several that he watched with me. So we were chatting. So she asked what this. So she was looking at my library of movies, and she saw that the disc was there, and she was like, "Well, what's this?" So I tried to explain it, and then realised I was sounding like a complete imbecile. And she said, "Well, let's give that a try." So she's finding it charming. Which is probably, to be frankly honest with you, the best thing you can describe the original Hitchhikers as.
Right,
charming.
Right.
That's true.
But no, so that's fun. I'm personally watching a trilogy of movies at the moment, which is a kind of a very a nice British spy thing. The first one was called Page 8, and then the second one is called Turks and Caicos. I can never pronounce it. Caicos. And then the third one is called Salting the Battlefield, and great kind of MI5 spy type thing. It's pretty good fun, actually. It's got Bill Nye in it. I'd recommend it to anybody who likes something that takes the mick out of British spies.
Oh, cool.
So that's quite good fun. So yeah, no, your usual thing. I did watch. I watched. What's they call it? The space movie about the guys. The guy. It's all about time and gravity, and it goes on. It was 3 hours of my life I'll never get back.
Time and gravity.
No, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
with Matthew McConaughey.
That's the job. Yeah, it was just. I mean, it was
what
like
was it? Interstellar.
I watched it because I thought I'm going to watch this, and then it was like, oh my gosh, where did my life go? Please give me that time back. I'll be a good boy.
So not a fan.
Not a fan. Really?
No, that was I was thoroughly depressed by the nonsense of it. And then, but yeah, unfortunately, there's been some other good movies. So I tend to pick on kind of 45-minute American programs to what 40-minute ones over here, because when I get in from work, I kind of like, it's normally been a relatively hectic day. I spend some time with the kids. I have my dinner, and then I try and just detox by just watching a little bit of depressurized mode by just watching an hour program. Sort of just kind of something that lets me just not think about it. I can kind of roll with it. But yeah, usual geeky things.
Nice.
Anything sci-fi. I was watching Constantine. But I understand it's been. Oh yeah. I understand it's been canned.
That's what I heard too. I'm liking it though. It's too bad because I enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it too, and yeah.
Yeah, the only bad thing is because he's supposed to be from Liverpool, so his accent sucks. But apart from that, it's great.
See,
now, is he supposed to be from Liverpool, or is the original from Liverpool? Because I thought that character was supposed to be from Ireland.
No, I'm pretty sure that the original character was from Liverpool. I'm pretty sure of that. I mean, I'm no. Wrong.
So the chat room.
No, I think on the TV show he's supposed to be from Ireland, but the original is supposed to be from Liverpool. But I don't know.
The chat room's rumoring that it's going to be heading to sci-fi. So we'll see.
Oh, so that'd be cool.
We'll see what happens. So, Craig, what about you? What have you been?
What have I been? Well, I'm still listening to Game of Thrones, of course, because it's going to take me about a month to finish. And I got Game of Thrones through Audible.com.
Yeah, there you go.
Audible.com is your choice for... no, anyway. It is awesome. And, of course, listeners of the D6 Generation can get a free 30-day membership of Audible.com by going to the D6 Generation and finding the Audible link and going straight to it. And for no cost to you, you get one Audible book of your choice or one credit that you can use. And I think everything's one credit now, because the big thing that we didn't know was back in the day, Game of Thrones actually took 2 credits because it's so damn long. Mm-hmm. And now it is 1 credit. So I spent a credit on Game of Thrones because I wanted to replenish my credit supply, and I know that it's going to take me forever, so I'll get 1 or 2 credits built up into my account while I listen. And it just reminds me all over again why he made it to book 5, because Game of Thrones is frigging amazing, the book.
The first one.
Dance with Dragons, not so much, but that first book really establishes this guy knew what he was doing at one point. And was really good at it, and really gives me a lot of hope that maybe he can come back to that for the last 2 books, because it has been 5 years since Dance with Dragons.
So Nicole was explaining to me that in the show they have announced that people are going to start dying in the show that don't die in the books.
Okay.
That's the thing.
That would be a weird choice, but okay.
I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's what they're saying.
That would be like.
Doesn't everybody just die?
Yeah,
they all die. I mean, it's not a spoiler because it's Martin. But
I mean, they've got. I think they've got 3 seasons left before they have to start covering stuff that he hasn't published yet.
Yeah.
So there's still some time. But as far as killing people that survive they do that with The Walking Dead a lot.
Yeah.
And that seems The Walking Dead sort of now exists independent of the comic books, where the comic books kind of give you a vague idea of what's going on and the themes that they're going to be dealing with, but the actual characters that live or die are different. So maybe they can do that, but I think that's an odd choice to be making this late in the game.
Well, they're gonna pass him in the books anyway soon, so they might as well just.
Well, that's the thing. They've got 3 more years. He's got 3 years to get the next book out before they catch up.
At his current writing rate, he'll never do it.
That's true. It's been 5 years since the last book.
Since the last one, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so after or before with the time warp, we talked to Neil and Derek about Halo and all things Halo and what all of that is going to be about and all the cool Halo stuff coming from Spartan. I got all excited, and I had read The Flood and a couple other books a long time ago and thought, it's okay. But I really, and longtime listeners will remember that my issue was all the cool stuff happens during the games, and the books are kind of like ligaments that tie the games together, so you don't get a lot of exciting stuff. But I went online, I did all this research, and everybody's like, oh yeah, the Forerunner saga is where you have to start to understand Halo. So I went, and I immediately that night, I bought the Forerunner saga book 1, which is called Cryptum by Greg Bear, who is apparently an award-winning writer. And I gotta say, I'm like 2 chapters in, and I just stopped reading.
No, not like that.
Well, it's not Halo. Then that's it's not awesome combat and the Spartans and Master Chief. It's a sci-fi book, which I'm sure I will go back to eventually. But I think what I wanted was all this combat and all that, jump right into military sci-fi, and it's not military sci-fi. It's more speculative sci-fi, ancient races, and it reminded me of a lot of, sci-fi from the 80s and 90s and which is great. I mean, it's probably very good. It just wasn't what I was looking for. So I think I might just go for The Fall of Reach, which is supposed to be, jump right into the action sort of thing.
Right.
Good book.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So I read through what I did read instead of Cryptum was the entire Planetfall rulebook in one night, which I had a blast with, and the layout and the pictures and the diagrams and everything. It was an awesome rule book. So kudos, Neil. Again, I don't going to keep sucking up, but it just so happens that this is the timing that everything worked out.
Well, everybody, you can go and download it now because we put the PDF up to
yeah, that's an important note. Yeah, so the PDF is and it's an FAQ'd version of the rule book. So if you go to the PDF, you're getting the absolute up to date book that's already got all the new changes and then the clarifications built into it. So I mean, that's an awesome thing for any game company to do. But we've done the same with
Dystopian Wars, and Legions goes up. I think Legions is next week. So of course we now got Firestorm 2 up there, Dystopian 2. Sort of Legions will go up very shortly. Planetfall's up. So no, I think it was the right decision. It was a good decision to make to give the books to the guys and then basically. Let them embrace them. It's the best way for us to get all the information into the right hands of the gamers.
Yeah. Well, what I think it shows is confidence in your games, which I think is great. So I read all.
Well, we've been doing it for 6 years. I mean, I think if we weren't confident, we'd have given in years ago.
That's true. That's true. That's true. As far as movies go, I saw Jupiter Ascending.
Oh, how bad is that?
It is
it good?
So bad. It is so very bad.
I kind of feel like the trailer kind of basically said, yes, this movie sucks.
Yeah, well, the trailer, to me, the trailer said it could go either way. It is so very bad. I was so disappointed. This is how bad it was. I had to go back and watch the original Flash Gordon movie from 1980 to wash my brain after Jupiter Ascending. Because
the chat room likes Jupiter Ascending, just saying.
Hawkman Dave!
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon, not only does Flash Gordon live up to the ages, for what it is. I mean, it's never going to be anything more than what it is, but it's a blast, and it doesn't take itself seriously. That's Jupiter Ascending took itself so seriously. It is Flash Gordon if Flash Gordon wanted to be Dune. That's what it is. I mean, it's such a mess. Wow. It is such a hot, ridiculous mess. And you know what? Channing Tatum is awesome as a comedic actor. I love the Jump Street movies. But to be honest, he can't carry a movie by himself. Mila Kunis can't carry a movie by himself. And Boromir, whose name escapes me, Sean Bean. Sean Bean is so and underused in this movie. It's like a crime. So yeah, I was offended. And then Karen and I, as always, were trying to this ties in because it's a comic book movie, sort of. We try to see the movies that have been nominated for Best Picture. Karen sees them all. I now exercise a veto option for certain movies. But I wanted to see Birdman. I'm a big Michael Keaton fan. I thought, that's really cool. Birdman, Batman. I get it. Oh my God.
Not good, huh?
If you have seen the musical Pippin, which is all about this kid who wants to find his meaning in life, and at the end, this evil guy convinces him that his life will have more meaning if he kills himself in a spectacular way in front of a bunch of people, and you put that with Fight Club and the end of Fight Club, you have Birdman. Huh. It is the biggest.
I have to say, I didn't like Birdman.
Did you? Oh, good. So you saw it?
Yes, I didn't like it. No. I was underawed.
No, I was underwhelmed. Other than the hours long continuous shots, which if you have one or two of those in your movie, that's like, wow, that's really cool. They put a lot of time. But when your whole movie is continuous shots, it becomes a gimmick, which I thought cheapened it. There's some good performances, which is a shame, because then other than that, you've got this self-indulgent, pretentious story and this weak free jazz drumming soundtrack that's just like dun dun dun. Through the whole movie. And then every now and then Michael Keaton's walking down the street and the drummer is on the screen a la Something About Mary. So it was so derivative, and I can't understand why it's getting all this praise. I mean, Michael Keaton is great in it within the confines of this ridiculous mess. But oh my God, it was so bad.
I just say, Craig, that one of the things that's certainly deeply disappointing me at the moment is that your lack of opinion. I wish you'd kind of get off the fence on that.
Yeah, I know.
How do you really feel, Craig?
I'm balancing. I'm balancing in the middle of the road today.
All right, well, you know.
So anyway,
I'd hate to see what you were like if you really hated it.
Oh, well, this is it. You're seeing it, buddy.
All right,
Russ. What about you, Russ?
Well, let's see. So I finished the first book in the Septimus Heap series. So if you remember, this is the book series that my daughter recommended to me. This is the one I call it Magic with the YK. So they spell all the words different. So the first book is Magic. The second book is Fly, I think, but it's spelled weird also. Anyway,
how do you spell fly weird? FLYE.
Hey, they spell magic weird too. Don't ask me. But it's great. The first book was really good, and the author does a little trick at the end of the book that I really enjoyed, which is he then has like what happens after to all these ancillary characters at the very, very end. Like the fishmonger who fell down the stairs in chapter 2. Here's what happened to him, and it's like these little side things, and it's just hilarious. The whole book I really enjoyed a lot. I liked how it came together, and again, it's a young reader's book. It's targeting sort of the Harry Potter audience, if you will. But I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the second one. I couldn't wait to get the next one, so I really liked that. As for shows, my kids are really addicted to Agent Carter, and it just ended in a huge cliffhanger. So we cannot wait to watch
Don't tell me, I haven't seen it yet.
I know, I can't wait. So fortunately, it was not the season end, so I can't wait to see what happens next. Then, speaking of movies, so this movie is better than all the movies you just reviewed.
I would expect that.
But that said, so I saw Kingsman. So this is the movie.
That's what I wanted to see.
So I really wanted to see this, and Nicole and I really wanted to see it. So we went out and saw it, and it's like a 2.5 hour, kind of long, maybe 2 hour, 45-minute movie. And this is the movie where it's secret agent stuff. The first 2 hours, I loved every minute of it. It was campy in the old school James Bond way of campy. So like the old Roger Moore, Sean Connery kind of camp where things were over the top, but it still was kind of realistic, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And then though, in the last I don't know, 30 minutes, it went to plaid. Like, first of all, it got like gruesomely gory, and I don't even know why it had. Not that I mind gore, but it was such a tone change from the rest of the film.
Right.
And then there was just like this gratuitous sort of weird. It was like almost like Austin Powers campy at the very, very last 15 minutes.
Really?
It was weird. It was very strange. It was like totally threw me out of the movie. The acting was great. Samuel L. Jackson was fantastic in his role.
Really? Even with the speech impediment?
No, he pulled it off perfectly. He did a great job.
Because those parts of the preview were like, really?
I liked it. I liked the action. Okay. I liked the premise. I liked everything about it, like the gadgets, the whole secret agent thing. It was fine. All the characters are cool. It was just this sort of change in tone. So it went from a fantastic movie to an okay movie, but I still enjoyed it. And I still recommend it. People like that kind of film. Just be aware that the end of it is going to be like, if you squeamish at all with grossness, you're going to be like, what the? And then the very end was just like gratuitous. I don't know what the heck happened at the very end. So anyway, it was fun to watch.
That's weird.
Finally,
I want to hunt that one out and watch it.
Yeah, I think you want to watch it. If you like James Bond, it's worth a watch. And then I'm starting to play the video game Evolve.
Oh, I've seen the commercials.
So this is an interesting game. So it's pretty much a multiplayer experience in the same vein as like a Titanfall, where basically there's not much single player element here. You're really going to be playing online with friends. But what's interesting about it is it's asymmetric gameplay, right? So kind of like so the premise is there's these monsters on the planet, along with violent wildlife, and they're attacking colonies. So you send in these hunters who go try to take out the monsters. And so in the scenario, there's usually 5 different hunters, and they all have different roles. So there's a medic, there's a trapper who's someone good at keeping the monster contained. There's like a tank guy who's really good at absorbing damage and doing damage, that kind of thing. Then there's the monster. And so the monster tries to fight the hunters, and the hunters try to get the monster. But the cool part is one player can play the monster, and the rest of the players play the hunter. So it's kind of like Descent in the Overlord versus the players thing. Really, really cool. The monster can try to eat other things and evolve and become more powerful. There's different monsters you can play with different powers, ranging from breathing fire to going stealth to hurling rocks, all kinds of craziness. It's actually quite a bit of fun, and it's pretty innovative. It's a different kind of multiplayer experience. I really like it. You don't see a lot of sort of truly asymmetric multiplayer. You saw that kind of in Splinter Cell and games like that, and this is kind of that same sort of feel where it's a very different feeling if you're the monster versus the hunter. So I really like it a lot. It's a lot of fun. So, I think that's achievements. Wow.
And a tiny little bit of an interview.
A little bit.
Well, ahoy, me mateys. This be Captain Barbossa of the Black Pearl. If it be lost treasure you be looking for, well, I'll send you down to Davy Jones' locker. But if it be lost chapters, well then, you've come to the right place. Go to the D6 Generation website and click on the stack of books labeled the D6 Lost Chapters. There you'll find all the details on how you can acquire these beauties, and you won't even need a treasure map.
Ooh, the wolf's really howling tonight, and that noise means it's time to talk about our friends at Wolflair and Lone Wolf Development, makers of fantastic software for us gamers, including the greats like Hero Lab for making characters for your favorite RPGs, to Realmworks for GMs to run and manage and maintain their great worlds they make for their RPGs, and of course, the classic, the one that's
where it all started.
Army Builder, the way you can crank out lists for your favorite miniature war game, no matter how complex. And this is great because, like, you get into a game like Planetfall, you're brand new, you're trying to figure it all out. Pop up Army Builder. There's already people out there cranking out these data files. They pop right in. It's just get it on. You get it done. All the rules are right there. Everything's ready to go. If you're managing a tournament, it takes care of it for you. That is that's a must-have software, Craig, for any miniature gamer. Period. It's not even
exactly as they say. Okay, you're playing the game. You're not doing all of these onerous things that really get between you and the game. It makes these parts of the game that are usually the bookkeeping and stuff, makes them fun in and of themselves. These various programs, Card Vault for all of your collectible stuff, it makes it fun. Army list building goes from, oh crap, I got to figure out how many points and what are we going to be doing. And all of a sudden, you're just having a blast because it's so much fun and it's so easy to put together your armies that you're just doing it on the fly on your own when you're free time. And the same thing with all of the other
great tools.
The great tools. There is no one else in the world who's making all of these awesome programs that not only get the onerous elements of gaming out of your way, but transform them into fun aspects in and of itself. It's magic.
It is magic. So check out all the great stuff over at wolflair.com. And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present... Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep. Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, and now I'm relegating to announcing this pap. Hey, you're lucky we still use you. Hey, welcome back to App of the Ep. And this week's app, I'm really excited about this one. Sometimes, every once in a while, you find an app that the sum of the beauty and the graphics and just the style and the audio makes all that come together and becomes greater than the sum of its parts. And there's been a couple like that in the past. I really like, for example, the puzzle game Monument is one of those games where it's just so beautiful. And another game that reminds me of Monument, although it's a completely different style, is Alto's Adventure. This game is basically a little snowboarding game. It's available on iOS, and it might be available on other platforms too, I'm not sure. But it's just a beautifully rendered game, and the premise is very simple. You start in this little mountaintop village in the middle of snowy mountains, and the llamas have escaped the pen. Don't ask why, but they've gotten out. So you jump on your snowboard and go after and try to catch the llamas. And while you're snowboarding, it's just a beautiful side scroller going down a mountain. It's not 8-bit though. It's nice. That new style is very artistic. And you do little things. So like you can tap the screen to jump. If you hold the screen, you'll do a backflip while you're in the air. You can grind on these little flags and just the way they do the indicators as well. There's not special meters on the screen. The whole real estate is really dedicated to just a visual experience. But as you achieve certain objectives, your speed gets faster. And the way you can tell is your scarf gets longer, little things like that. You're trying to catch llamas, catch coins. It's just a very elegant game. Give it a try. It's Alto's Adventure. Also, be sure to check out with the sound on. I just really find the sound very, mesmerizing. I don't know what it is, but this game just really comes together and is a really, really nice experience. Great little experience. That's Alto's Adventure on iOS. Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the Ep, a segment in which, hey, less of that, more just getting on with the show. Seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class.
Hey, welcome back. And of course, this has been sort of an annual event for about 5 years now, actually,
right.
where Neil Fawcett, of course, of Spartan Games comes on, and we have this thing that we've taken to calling the State of Spartan Games. This is the 2015 edition, and welcome back, Neil.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And you're sounding great. But this time, Neil brings a fellow Spartan with him, and would like to introduce you. I mean, you've already met him earlier in the show, but Derek Sinclair. Derek, welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's been really good to be here.
Excellent. And now, Derek, I'm no expert in dialects, but you don't sound to me like you are from Shepton Mallet.
No, well, fortunately, nobody who's from Shepton Mallet's from Shepton Mallet. I'm from sunny Scotland.
Scotland. So you got brought a little class into the whole joint, did you?
Yeah, very little amount of class to the whole joint.
He brought a lot. Awesome. He brought huge amounts of class. Unfortunately, it's all second.
All right. Well,
games and be insulted. That's what it's all about.
Now, do you guys have anything over there known as like a hostile work environment, or is that just us little effete snobs over in America? Because sounds like you're nailing it.
That sounds superb. A hostile work environment.
It's Monday to Friday, isn't it?
All right. Now, Derek, why don't we, before we dive in, because this is huge goings on at Spartan, of course, right now. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Like, how did you get into gaming originally? What was your pathway?
Well, many, many years ago, I was introduced to wargaming by my father, and we played a lot of naval games, like Trafalgar, sort of thing. And then after a while, when you grow up, you sort of drift out of wargaming, and then you find girls and you find beer, and you think that those things are just the total best things that you'll ever find. And then you realise that whilst the beer is excellent, the girls they come and go. So you realise that you've got to come back to wargaming. And so I did. I came back and I started playing some Games Workshop stuff, and I started to play some ancient stuff, so things like Warhammer Ancients, lots of board games. And then I sort of stumbled across Spartan Games while I was in a war game shop one day, and I saw the Dystopian Wars game in the 1.0 game, and I saw the Prussian fleet, and I thought, I've got to get myself some of those, because at first glance I thought they were actually First World War ships. So I looked at them really closely and thought, okay, these are not First World War ships, but they are cool, and I've got to have them. And that was kind of how I started with Spartan Games. Could I have tried Dystopian Wars? And then, of course, the Prussians have got balloons and robots. I mean, what else?
True. That's true. You don't really need anything else.
I want to share something with you before we go on. The first conversation I ever had with this man lasted for just short of 2 hours. And for 1 hour, 45 minutes of it, he shouted at me. It was. I just sat there in the meeting room, just staring at the telephone, wondering, who is this man and what have I done to just
I think I managed to use the word effing in both its verb, adverb, pronoun, adjective, and conjunction.
I
managed everything. That was great. That was good.
It was impressive. Poor
really?
Ricky, who was in the meeting room with me at the time, was just staring at me dumbfounded. I think he just wanted to leave. It was quite funny, and at the end of it, after he had his little diatribe, I just basically went, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
And that's what hurt me the most. You could have told me before I started. But no, I talked for a whole hour and a half on my own phone call, I'd like to point out.
What had gotten you so fired up?
Oh, well, we've been doing playtesting for a while, and they've gone and changed a whole lot of stuff. And I just threw my rattle well and truly out the pram, and wanted to blame somebody, and it was easier to phone Neil than it was anyone else. So I did, and he was very polite and listened politely, and then obviously shot me down in flames by saying he didn't know who I was. So I sent him an email. Then I threatened to drive down and see him, and then he deigned to listen.
11 and a half pages of email.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy really knows how to unload both barrels of a shotgun.
Wow. And then look at him now.
Yeah, no.
Now, is that how you ended up working for Spartan Games, Derek? That's a very interesting origin story.
Verbally insulting and swearing at the owner of Spartan Games, that's the absolute best way to get involved with Spartan Games. There's no doubt about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first.
Right.
Yeah, so if you're going to send a CV, make sure you put some effing in it. And don't be afraid to use it in every form of grammatical context that could exist.
I'm just going around, please ignore this man. I mean, in fact, I don't even know who he is.
He just wandered into your house at 1 o'clock in the morning.
There's some guy in my kitchen. I want him to leave now.
I only came here to deliver milk, and I was invited in. I'll just stay.
Okay. So. Well, I think that more than proves your suitability to this particular conversation, Derek.
Right.
So let's dive right into the first thing that I'd like to talk about, which of course was the first big news that Spartan Games had this week, which was your Kickstarter, Universal Modular War Games Terrain.
Well, it's an unusual one for us. I mean, we've we're a games company, and but the scenery was just a good idea we had at the time, and it's something that a couple of my model makers feel very passionately about. So it was an unusual departure. I mean, I've never we've never done crowdfunding for any of our games. We always design our games ourselves, and then take it to the marketplace, and we have done that religiously for several years. But I think with the scenery, we're pretty we're pretty maxed out at the moment. It's fair to say, as a company, we are. All of the games are performing incredibly well and growing for us, and the marketplace is just accepting them very well. And then, of course, we've been working on Halo for thick end of a year now, and so it's sort of we kind of take a look at the different methodology for the project. So no, it's an unusual one for us. It's a great solution, a great product. I think we've got to do an education process to kind of get across to people exactly just how flexible this thing is, because it's very much a horizontal solution to a problem as opposed to a vertical solution to a problem. A lot of scenery has it's very vertical in its appeal. It's science fiction, it's fantasy, it's whatever. It's 10 mil, it's 50 mil. Whereas we've attempted to look at something and kind of take a more holistic view of how do you create something that's overarching and straddle it across everything. And it's going to be an interesting one.
Now, where did the idea originate from?
It happened. It's one of my guys, Crispy, we call him. That's his and I know it's a strange nickname. We were driving down to Dorset to the Halo offsite that we were having, and we got chatting in the car. And I'm always quite fond of giving my model makers tricky things to do, and so I thought I'd throw a problem at Crispy, which was I wanted a modular terrain solution that would allow us to basically generate product that could factor in a number of games and things and developments that we're working on this year. But part of that was I wanted it to be multiple scale, multiple genre, and also multiple format. And I wanted it to embrace, kind of pre-printed card, acrylic, wood, beautiful quality resin, and then basically up and down the scale. Oh, and be stackable.
Right. So not too many requirements then.
No.
But you have to understand, Crispy is the guy. He's just he's a walking talent. He's quite a staggering young man, and his ability to conceptualize problems is staggering. So I kind of threw this at him, and he chewed on it for a while, and he went away, and he came back and said, "Well, what do you think of this?" And we kicked it around a bit longer, and there's quite a bit of development work still to go on it. But I think the way I was kind of looking at the Kickstarter side of it is to use it in its kind of like true spirit, which is it is supposed to be a mechanic by which you develop something, as opposed to just using it as a sales and marketing tool. So I'm trying to embrace it in that format, and kind of like keep moving the product along over the coming days and weeks. Derek and I have got some 10 mil Planetfall stuff to run through with people tomorrow, and we've also got the stuff that we're going to do with our sort of 40 mil Greek mythology stuff, and then we've also got the Spec Ops stuff that we're doing for next week. So there's a whole kind of number of items coming out, and along the way, we'll get the model makers to start showing off their other ideas. So yes, we were in a car driving to Dorset to talk about Halo, and I threw a curveball at him.
Now you've dropped a lot of hints and little bits and pieces. Could you give us like the elevator pitch on exactly what the Universal Modular Wargame System does, or how it does it? I should say.
An elevator pitch. It's a beauty.
Yeah, ready?
Yeah.
Ding. Dun, 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 dun. No, okay. Just trying to set the mood.
Based on that music, I'd like to get off the elevator.
Okay. Then you've got to make the pitch even quicker.
Okay. The basic foundations of it is it starts as a modular idea on 90 mil square tiles, which are stackable. You can roll them out in a kind of a flat format. You can stack them. You can put the vertical uprights in. There'll be half-height uprights, full-height uprights. You can then put the floor plates on top of those to create cubes. From the cubes, you can take them out to expand into corridors and rooms. And then into them are a sliding mechanic whereby you can put in various formats of materials such as the pre-printed card or the acrylic or the wood or the whatever. And generally speaking, you have a box of bits. So let's say you start off with, I don't know, you've got 60 squares and you've got 100 upright. You can build a dungeon. And on the Friday, you can play it as a fantasy dungeon. On the Saturday, you're bored with that. You want to play World War II. On the Sunday, you want to play Ancients, or you want to do a bit of Dungeons and Dragons. just go for it. The idea being is that whatever you want to do with it, we want to try and deliver you a solution. Also, it opens up for third-party add-on type materials whereby other companies or other people could do artwork that could work in conjunction with it, because it's at the end of the day, it's a framework, and the framework is to let the gamer do what the gamer wants to do with it, as opposed to us telling the gamer what to do with it.
Right.
That's where it all boils down to. You've got these bits. What do you want to do with it? What is your gaming thing? What on a Saturday afternoon, the wife's out, you're there gaming with your buddies. What do you want to do? And then, let's face it, not everybody's got infinite budgets and infinitely deep pockets, so you kind of want to make these things stretch a long way. And with a lot of scenery, a lot of war games, how many times have we seen war gamers either do without because they'd rather spend the money on the figures as opposed to spending a ton of money on the scenery? And yes, it's nice to have the scenery, but it's a bugger to store. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to be able to, whether now in our heads, right or wrong, we felt it would be kind of cool to have this solution that you could just bounce around your hobby for as long as you wanted to do it. Get your mates to bring their toys together. You can make huge installations if you want, or smash it down to little dungeon pieces or little room pieces, and that's the general idea. I mean, it's kind of almost limitless. Perhaps that maybe will be a bit of a problem with people kind of embracing, because when you look at it, it's kind of trying to work out what you want to do with it. It's because it will theoretically will do anything.
Well, it's a really interesting approach, right? So what you guys have got here is the idea that there's these plastic or resin. Is it plastic or resin? The heart.
No. Well, what you're seeing on the website is very much a prototype.
Okay.
It is literally, it's they connect it, so it's very much the prototype stage on this one. So no, the solution is plastic.
Right.
It has to be to get the compression fits, because we want it to be glueless. So we work on a compression sliding mechanic, which we haven't technically shown the full concept on that one, because it's actually quite neat and quite clever. So what we're trying to do is give people the best imagery of what it can be. And of course, the final solution is a lot tidier. There's a lot less frame showing in the inside of it. So, but right now it's still in the concept phase with us.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty cool though. So
plastic.
Yeah. So it's a cool looking plastic frame system, and then you have these cardstock. Looks like really heavy duty cardstock in the prototypes here. Inserts, and because there's a different variety in those inserts, you can make it a frame set of sci-fi or frame set of fantasy or whatever, because just by changing out those cards, which is really.
If you're into dungeon bashing, you can literally just keep it in a flat profile and just literally build corridors and doorways.
Yeah.
I love the idea that you're wandering down a corridor and there's a tile that's got a crack in it, so you kind of you run your characters across it. You make a dice roll. You got it wrong. You swap the plate out and put the one with the hole in. It's like you're just falling down 30 feet or something. Or you've got a bridge and you're trying to cross a lava pit. Or, all sorts of, this whole idea that I run up to a wall. Okay, crazy idea. I'm playing science fiction, right? So I've got a room and I'm running down a corridor and there's a doorway. Do I go through the doorway to kill the guys on the other side, or do I put a breaching charge on the wall and blow a hole in the wall, go through there, pepper the room with machine gun fire or laser fire and kill everybody inside? So what you do is you got a piece of card or a piece of acrylic or a piece of whatever that's got a bloody big hole in it.
Right.
And when you've blown that section of wall out, you just slide the wall out and you put the section in that's got the big hole in. There's no trying to argue where it was or trying to remember, because you put the big hole in.
So it's cool. So it's very dynamic. You can restructure the dungeon as you play, which is awesome. So it's really very flexible.
Yeah, sorry, yes, I'm talking over you. I apologize. Yeah, absolutely. Dynamic is a good word.
Very cool. Very cool.
Russ is good with words.
So that's great. And it seems like, I love what you were saying, Neil, about this idea that you chose Kickstarter to use it as sort of its original inception, which is, you've got this great idea at Spartan for this really cool terrain concept. You're not really sure if people are going to love it, and so you've got it out there. People can look at it, they can pledge to support it, and if they do it, you guys can crank it out. And if people are like, I don't know, then hey, you tried and you move on, right? So it's a really nice way to kind of try to get something that you otherwise wouldn't do. So Kickstarter is in its truest form here. Spartan wouldn't do this unless people are really excited about it. So if they're excited about it, go pledge and get Spartan to do it, right?
In essence, absolutely. It's when it comes to our games, we're always when we designed the games and we're behind them. So when we did Planetfall, which was Derek's baby, we were fully 100% behind where we were taking it. We dabbled with the 10 mil and we'd gone away to figure out how to do it properly. And because our first iteration of the game was a good game, but it wasn't a great game, and we wanted to go away and make it a great game. And we took our time, but that was our development. That was for us to spend the money, and that was for us to take the risk. And I'm not saying that Kickstarter is not about it's about completely passing the risk on. But at the end of the day, you have an idea and you don't know if it's going to work or not. And with something like this, it's out the park on this one, because this is not, to my knowledge, it's not been done before. It's in a funny sort of way. It's almost a crazy idea. Who is this crazy company trying to do a modular, generic, ever expanding scenery system? It's kind of crazy in one respect, but kind of cool in another.
Yeah,
right.
So yeah. We turned to Kickstarter to try and do something cool with it, and we'll see what happens.
Right.
with projects like Halo and with projects like Dystopian World, their thing, our gut feel is these are great projects and they're going to work, so therefore we're behind it, and that's not the place for us to put those to Kickstarter. That's for us to do that, but no. But hey, we'll see where we go with it.
So Craig, I can't resist anymore. He keeps saying the word Halo.
You want to just jump to Halo?
I gotta ask some questions about Halo. Can I ask questions about Halo yet, or can I go to Halo?
No, let's. There's a couple questions that I did a lot of research on the Kickstarter and comments and stuff, and I think there's some questions we need to ask about that. Calm down.
All right, fine.
There will be plenty of time for Halo later, unless they both fall asleep at exactly the same moment.
All right.
Okay. And so I'll skip to some questions, Neil, that the community seems to be wondering about. Now, the first thing is, this Kickstarter starts with basically a 28 millimeter field, which strikes some people as odd, considering that Spartan Games really only has one game right now that's in that scale. But my gut feeling is that what you're trying to do is portray this not as a sort of a Spartan product that goes with your game so much as a universal, as in the title, sort of system. Is that right?
Yes. It's not absolutely. It's not just aimed at Spartan Games products. It's aimed at gaming products generically. So 28 mil was an easy direction and an easy choice to make, because it's a good size of format for people to build terrain on. It can also be something that can turn out to be quite costly and quite inflexible at times. So it's a good one to try and target with a flexible, cost-effective solution. So, but also, if we have models that we had easy access to, such as we've got 28 mil fantasy figures that we created that we never ever took to market. We've got our 28 mil sci-fi figures, and of course we've got Spec Ops under development, so it was easy for us to kind of have those models to play with. And we've got Dystopian Legion, so that's easy to do that sort of thing. Plus we're working on the Vault, but of course it's sort of it was easy for us to identify with that one. Tomorrow, Derek and I will be showing off all of the new 10 mil buildings and the scenery and the buildings and the urban. I can't remember what the name is. Is it Urbanscapes? I can't. Whatever we're ending up calling them. I'm looking at Derek now.
It's the Urban War.
Yeah, but So there's those that we've done. We've got the buildings. They're all used the terrain. We've actually even got the new Dystopian Wars campaign maps. If we choose to go that route, they can use the system as well for our campaign maps, where you actually pin
nice.
Yeah, well, we were kind of looking at it as to kind of making it as multifunction, as flexible as we can. And if we had it there, it's sort of like, what can we do with it? And also, we'll be using them as for building block materials for more modelling orientated things coming up as well. In terms of, we want to build a big skyscraper, so these can be we can if we did glue them together and assemble them solidly, we can build larger scenery sets from it by just gluing it. So we've got the modular feel,
right?
But also there's the ability to put them in place and make them more permanent, more rigid, and do kind of crazier, funkier things with it, such as kind of like 18, 24-inch tall skyscraper type things with walkways across them that you can run your soldiers across.
Yeah,
because there are methods where we can do that with wood and things, but we wanted to keep the weight down. A lot of the wooden scenery that we do, we love it. It's great, but it can be quite costly to ship that across the world, across the states when it comes to shipping it. So you look for a solution like plastic and card, and it can make it easier for our sales partners to carry, because it's cheaper to ship plastic and card than it is to ship 3mm thick MDF.
Right. So now currently it looks when you go on the webs on the Kickstarter page, it looks like you're pledging for 28mm stuff. But basically what you're saying is that as you start unveiling these other elements, like the different scales and the half-sized posts and everything, that's what people will be able to tailor their pledge to whatever game system and scale they're looking for.
Yeah, we're going to accelerate into that, and over the next 7 days we'll start showing more versatility in the smaller scales. I mean, we've got we'll show some Dystopian Wars stuff. We've got a rather nice submarine pen that we created for Dystopian Wars. Actually, Chris went a little bit crazy on that one. He ended up putting 3 Meticas inside it, and several submarines. But it's quite funny. But it is Dystopian Wars at the end of the day, so it's all about kind of crazy stuff anyway. So yes, we're going to show that. We'll show a lot of the 10mm Planetfall things. We'll probably show off some of the some 15mm ideas with it, because we've got a bunch of 15mm figures that we did for Firestorm that, again, they're kind of sitting around on the development bench. So, but that's easy. It's easy enough for us to show what we can do with 15mm scale as well.
Right. Awesome. And now my big confusion when I went to the Kickstarter when it first started, I didn't know if a lot of that was like stretch goal stuff, or is that stuff that you're going to roll out sort of to help prime the pump and get things moving?
No, they'll be added on, actually. It's quite a bit of those things will go in as add-ons that people will be able to buy. So no, I think probably the next 7 days will probably enlighten people an awful lot more as to what the multiple scale issues are with the product. So that'll be kind of growing and expanding it beyond the 28mm. So I think there'll be again a lot of an educational process that we need to accelerate on this product on the Kickstarter.
Right. Yeah. Well, and as you said, I mean, Russ sort of summarized what you were saying about Kickstarter also, but another thing that you had mentioned was actually using Kickstarter almost as a laboratory where people are going to be able to tell you what they're interested in and what they want. You can adapt as you go.
Well, I'd like to think that that's a big part of what Spartan Games is anyway. We're very, I think the very first conversation I ever had with you, I said to you at the time that if you don't listen to what your customers want and don't treat them with respect, you won't put them against a brick wall shooting in the back of the head. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I don't remember.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah, well, that viewpoint hasn't changed. I mean,
right.
Anybody that forgets that without your customers, you're nothing.
Yep.
So you have to listen. So I know it's like I sound like I'm on a soapbox, but I'm a firm believer that that you have to look after your customer base, because they're what make you successful.
Absolutely.
And we have been incredibly successful, and we're very fortunate to have done that, and we've done that with the support of our customers.
Yeah.
So we as a company will continue to support them, and if that means listening to them, if they turn around on a Kickstarter and tell me that we've got it completely wrong and do it this way, we'll listen.
Yeah.
I don't believe for 1 minute that we have got all the right answers, and there are other smart people out there you can listen to that can help you make decisions.
Right, and I think the way that Kickstarter is structured is it actually allows you to do that, where you're going to have the flexibility of the design and development element as well, which is great. And now you keep mentioning this thing, and it's not what Russ wants to talk about. So one more thing to talk about before we get into the big news,
right.
And that's you keep dropping little Spec Ops comments.
Yeah.
And that is a stretch goal I noticed on the Kickstarter is this potential for a Spec Ops rulebook. And that's something that a lot of people, a lot of fans of Spartan Games and people who are know about Spartan Games but maybe haven't jumped into the smaller scale games yet. Could you tell us a little bit what Spec Ops is?
Well, I mean, I can get Derek to talk about that as well, but I'll throw in my bit on it. Spec Ops has been kicking around for a little while now. It's when we built the Firestorm Galaxy, obviously the way we kind of view it quite simplistically is it sounds twee to say this, but the spaceships are the taxis that get things to a planet. And basically our 10 mil scale tanks. That's the armored bad boys that just come in and crunch a planet. They just come in there, they just beat the hell out of it. On the battlefield, you got these fantastic hotspots of activity, strategic places that just it's going to do you no good sending in a gigantic tank or a Leviathan or bombarding it from space in a spaceship. You want to send in the creme de la creme, the kind of the top notch boys who go in, they capture the bridge, they take out the bunker, they board the ships maybe in space. They kind of do that whole kind of close in, high quality kind of missions, and it's not about having tons of them on the table. It's about having the right tool, right job, right number, and basically let they go in and do the job. And that's always been the idea for Spec Ops. It's not a mass combat game. Anyway, again, so this is something Derek's all over. So I'll let Derek chat because I've been talking way too much.
You don't drink. You've done really well.
I do. I'm going to get a drink of water.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Well, for me, I look at the Firestorm universe, and I see we have our Firestorm Armada, and we have our Firestorm Planetfall. And Neil's just pouring from the fridge there. Just while I'm talking.
We had good acoustics. Good acoustics.
So, and then Neil and I have different views on this. I'd like to see a more macro version of Firestorm where it's more of a campaign-orientated system, almost like a board game, if you will, where you're playing a galactic campaign almost. And I see the Spec Ops as the sort of the glue that brings all three of those systems together. So the Spec Ops is an espionage phase in a macro game, or it's a boarding action in a Firestorm Armada game, or as Neil says, it's a special operations close quarter battles fight, two forces attacking or trying to hold an objective in a planetfall fight. So I see, like Neil saying, it's not they're not thousands of models on the table. It's not an enormous game. It's more of a skirmish game where you know your mission before you start. Use the defender, pick your forces based upon the fact that you're defending. The attacker, he picks his forces and picks his equipment based upon the idea that he's on the attack. He has a special mission. Use the defender, have yours. And it's based upon the situation that you find yourself in, the premise of the game existing in the first place. So for me, I see Spec Ops as a very narrative-driven system that encourages people to get involved in the story of the games that they're playing.
It's also it's also the kind of fruition of a system that Derek and I have been looking at, which we call the SAM engine, which is the simultaneous activation mechanic. And it's the idea being is that it was very much a building a game that is not a you go I go. It's an understandable engine that won't hurt people's brains, but that it encompasses the idea of simultaneous combat and actions and interaction, and there's a big part of that. You have this idea of your combat elements overwhelming the enemy. It's about kind of like the quality of the troops and the training and what they're doing, just literally taking the enemy apart. Unfortunately, being taken apart by the troops and the SAM bit is something that we've been working on, and we're really pleased with what we've accomplished with it. So it's now that we got that close, we started unrolling Spec Ops into a game that we'll have out. So
great. Now, and so it's 28 millimeter.
No, 154.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, we wanted to go small scale. Yeah, no, 28 mil.
Yeah, and so could you just very, very quickly, and then we'll get to Russ's big thing that he's very, very admirably reining himself in on. Could you go in just a little bit? So it's a 28 mil. It's going to be skirmish. So what kind of model count are we looking at?
Probably, I would say probably no more than about 30 models a side.
Oh, 30? Okay.
30, and that is an absolute maximum. that would be the biggest game you could play. Probably about 30.
Yeah, you probably most people we would anticipate would use somewhere between the 15 to 20 points.
Yeah, 15 to 20.
Of that, you're going to have, you've got. Unfortunate terminology. You've got the cannon fodder. You've got your troops that you just know you're going to lose, or your drones, or your robots, or in the case of the Royal Swords, are those kind of like almost
the young
ones. They're basically kind of
people on the low end of the occupation scale. They're thrown in a Darwinism effect. They got to survive, get to be elevated to the next level of Rothosan. But it's a very, very harsh learning curve for those fellows.
I would imagine.
Yeah, so it's better level.
And very mission-oriented, you were saying?
Very much so, yeah.
Narrative and mission-oriented. Yep. We've got a quite unusual way of developing scenarios, and they're created. There's a game before the game, if you will, where you sort of build your scenario, and then knowing what you've got to do, you've got to then go away and you build a force to fix. Of course, you don't know exactly what your opponent's got to do. You know he's on the attack. You know playing a certain type of scenario, but you're not sure exactly what he's doing. So you've got to try and think outside the box. And if you're the defender, you're setting defensive points, maybe some choke points of where you think he's likely to engage. And then, of course, as Neil was saying, if you're using the Kickstarter terrain, then the crazy stuff is he might come through the wall, and you weren't prepared for that. So all your chaps are. He basically busts his way into the room that way.
Or the ceiling.
Which was what happened to me this morning, but we'll not talk about that. So I'd set up all my little directorate chaps were protecting a computer installation, and Neil and his dastardly Dendrenzi came in through the roof. Which I had not planned for.
And I know they're allies in Firestorm, but we were a bit short the minute we were playing them, so I ended up killing my own allies. It was quite funny. It was sort of one of the figures that I took in my team was a guy with hacking experience. So there's rules in there for things like hacking the electronics and computers. So I kind of hacked the surveillance system so I made him reveal what his troops were, so I knew what they were and where they were. So when I came through, I kind of basically made sure that I put the shape charge against the wall in the right place and inflicted damage before I even walked through it. So
now the benefit of the system is that whilst he was Dick Dastardly and incredibly clever doing all that stuff, I was able to try and simultaneously activate. So when he burst through into the room with his two Dendrenzi elites, and I think it was about 12. I had 12 drones. I had 12 drones that were there, and a little chap who was cowering in a corner trying to make them all work. I was able to roll for each one of my guys to see if they could simultaneously activate while the Dendrenzi was mowing them all down. And so it wasn't as if I was out of the game. I was in the game and I was still participating. And I think that's kind of the future of a lot of war games, especially skirmish games. I don't think the I Go, You Go system is really sustainable for much longer. I think the world's going to move on to this sort of system whereby everybody can kind of do something when an action has happened. You're in the game. Nobody's sitting there or goes out for a cup of tea or a cigarette while the other guy's basically tearing chunks out of your army.
Right.
I think the game's moving in a direction whereby everybody's got to be constantly engaged, otherwise people just sort of drift away.
Well, that sounds awesome, and it sounds like it's a perfect fit for the terrain system where you can be fighting in a bunker one week and a spaceship the next week, with very mission oriented terrain, which sounds awesome. A nice dovetail. Do you have any kind of vague concept of when the game is going to be able to come to fruition?
The target is to realise it by October time.
Okay.
But sooner if possible. We had we were sort of like talking to our plastics company the other day, and then there's some slots opening up in our schedule that we maybe got to slide some bits and pieces in sooner than we'd hoped, which is kind of cool. Because as I'm sure you know, tooling can take its time.
Yep.
Actually. Yeah, it's really good because we're doing all of our tooling in England, so it's sort of all of our manufacturing in England, so it's pretty cool. So that's kind of really to keep the anyway. Well, yeah, That's on that little thing that you're not wanting to let us talk about.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Come on, Craig, let us talk about this.
We're doing the best we can. I got a lot out of them.
Hey, before we get to that though, I mean, obviously, there's a lot, there's not, we're talking about Spec Ops there, but obviously, Planetfall is just going, it's just going from strength to strength. I mean, we can barely make enough of it, to be frankly blunt.
We can't get any of it over in America,
right.
So clearly it's working.
Clearly a problem.
Yeah, it's it just sells out all the time. It's been incredibly successful. So, and we got some Leviathans being launched on tomorrow. What day is today? Wednesday. From Friday we're launching some Leviathans. That's kind of cool. Actually, and don't it's okay, Craig. Your box is winging its way over with your pieces in. Don't worry.
I'm waiting with bated breath, Neil. Bated breath.
I double checked on it for you. It's on its way.
And I do appreciate that.
No, well, you just enjoy it.
I didn't mean to call you out on the show, but thank you.
It's okay. I knew you'd get to it eventually, so I called myself out.
Proactive. I like it.
There you go. Well, I can't wait I was excited for Spec Ops to start with, but that just sounds really, really cool. And definitely, that was, I was listening to Giles and you both of you gentlemen on the Element 270 podcast. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything cool. And I must say that the way that Spec Ops dovetails with this very mission-oriented terrain kind of started it. That's where the whole idea of the terrain system really gelled for me. So I wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a way. I think once people wrap their heads around it, I mean, to some extent, if they don't, then it'll be our mistake for not explaining it properly. But I think it's sort of like, I'd actively encourage people to download the PDFs that the guys made and have a look at it, because it's sort of it's insanely flexible, and I think kind of it's almost a kind of, for some people, just start looking at it and start thinking what you'd like to do with it. That's the beauty of it, and we will as a company react to what we can on this, and we'll give it our best shot to try and support it in as many for them. So
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. And this week's shout out is, as always, to our wonderful supporters over at Patreon. We are so grateful for your support and we appreciate it so very much. You too can help support the show. Head to patreon.com/the D6 Generation. So my daughter Rose is 12 and a half, and she is in 7th grade, and she has reached a point where teachers are giving her a little bit of free will in terms of what she's able to read for a class. It's no longer, you will read this book and you will tell the class about it. It's, you'll pick a book from this kind of genre, or you'll pick this style of book of your own choosing and tell the class about it, which as a nerd who loves to read is kind of exciting for me, because she came to me and said, Mom, what kind of book do you think I should read? I have this project. I was like, oh my gosh, my daughter has asked me about reading a book. So her assignment was that she had to read a book that had also been, after it was written, that the book had been made into a movie. And the rule was she had to read the book first and then she had to watch the movie. And there were certain books she couldn't do, like the books, the Tolkien books were on the list. I think Mockingjay was on there, and Harry Potter possibly, because the teacher didn't want them to do a book that like everyone has pretty much read already. She was trying to get them to read something new. So she asked me what book I would read. She's like, Mom, do you have one? And the first one that popped in my head was a book that I read when I was in 6th grade, and it was what got me started reading and loving science fiction. And that was I, Robot by Asimov. It's huge. It's a big deal. It's like, one of those staple science fiction books that if you're a science fiction reader, you have probably read this book and you know the 3 laws of robotics. And this was something cool and important, and I loved it. And I remember giving an oral report on it in 6th grade and getting an A+ because I rocked it. So when Rose said she needed to read a book and then watch the movie, I said, well, that will work, but the book and the movie are very, very different. I said, start reading it and tell me if you like it. If you hate it, you can pick something else. I won't be crushed, which was a total lie, because if she had hated this book, I would have been crushed. But she picked up the book, she started reading it, she read for a little while. She comes out of her bedroom, Mom, I love it. And I was so happy. It was all I could do not to cheer. She read the book, devoured it, like she does all of the other books that she really loves in the series that are like 10 books long. That's how she read I, Robot, which warmed my little sci-fi loving heart. And then I said, okay, she finishes the book, which she did. Now it's time to watch the movie. And she was unfortunately introduced to the horror of having a book that you love and adore turned into a movie that only resembles the book in which you love in the vaguest of bits and pieces. We watched maybe 10 minutes of the movie and she's like, okay, so like the name is the same and that's it. I said, well, there's a little bit. She's like, okay, the laws are in it and the name is the same, but that's it. I'm like, well, kind of, sort of. So we watched the movie after she read the book, and it was really fun. And now she has to write a report comparing and contrasting what happened in the book versus what happened in the movie, to which she said to me, this is going to be really hard, Mom, because nothing is the same except for those laws. So it's given her a little bit of a challenge, but I was so excited that my kid is into sci-fi. It made me so happy. And I didn't think anything could go better until last night when my youngest, who is 11, said, hey, Rose, have you finished your report on iRobot yet? Because I really want to read that book. And my day was made. I was so excited. So now I just have to hope that child number 2 falls in love with sci-fi the same way as child number 1 and me.
Hey, and now it's time to talk about our friends at Geek Nation Tours, Craig.
Yes, Terrace and the gang at Geek Nation Tours are putting together, as we speak, the most amazing trips around the world that are built specifically for gamers and geeks of all stripes.
Exactly right. For example, the summer Gen Con tour coming back at you, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
This August, join Craig and myself and other podcasters and various folks across the gaming industry. What's cool about Geek Nation Tours, I love how Terrace does this. He's got those opening dinners, so you get right started. You get all kinds of great events throughout the week, fantastic food, all these other ancillary events in and around the whatever the reason you're going to these places are. Like if you're going to Indianapolis for Gen Con, or let's say you're going out to Vegas for a Star Trek convention, or you're going to Lock and Load in Seattle. He's got all that stuff ready for you to find all the great stuff. Craig, I want to go to Middle Earth.
Yeah, so do I.
I mean,
and the key thing is, as you said, Russ, not only are you doing the actual destination events that you're going for, but he sets up ancillary events also that are geared specifically for you and people who have the same interests and likes as you. So you're surrounded by gamers and people who enjoy games and people who enjoy the same thing as you. And I'll tell you, group travel is its own unique animal. And when you're surrounded by people who are enjoying things as much as you are, it's just like laughter. It's infectious. It's the reason that you laugh out loud at a movie theater and you don't laugh out loud usually in your living room. Because when you're around people who are all enjoying the same thing, it really just magnifies it. And the way that Terrace puts it all together and structures it, and he knows going in what's going on so you don't miss anything. It's really the only way to do these events where you know that you're going to have the opportunity to do anything that's going to be of interest to you. It's going to be brought up to you, brought to your attention, and you're gonna sort of tailor the each vacation to your own tastes and desires. Going to New Zealand and seeing all the locations for The Hobbit would be amazing. He's talking about a Game of Thrones trip soon, going to Iceland.
Yeah.
I think that's just in his head right now. He hasn't even put that together. That's just like he's now expanding. Things are going great for Geek Nation Tours, so they're going to look for them to be doing all kinds of awesome stuff going forward. And it really is. I mean, the Gen Con thing is like the big flagship event of the moment. Adepticon is right around the corner. That's huge for them.
Check it all out. So head on over to geeknationtours.com.
I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. All right, welcome to another edition of the Hollywood Minute. We're going to get right down to some brass tacks today. Oh, yeah, and if you want to follow me, you can follow me on the D6G Hollywood on Twitter, and also the D6GHollywood.com, and Rafe Hollywood Granger for YouTube. Let's get right down to brass tacks. Played a War Machine game the other day. Was really fun. Played a ton at TempleCon, so that got me jump-started. Played a 25-point battle against Dave Farr's Convergence of Chris, and I got mobbed, killed, stomped on. Vlad just got beat to smithereens. Dave played a really good and tight game. He knew his list. I built this crazy list from nowhere, man. It just, as I was playing it, I'm like, what was I thinking? 25 points is so different, at least for Vlad and Kador, than it is at 55 points. I mean, I suppose that's a stupid thing to say, because we could say that about any point list in any army, but I really noticed it. I didn't make good choices at all. So, lesson learned, pay attention to your list. Don't just pick stuff because it's fun. What else going on? I'm playing Evolve on the Xbox One, and it was really funny. My game group, being Russ, Andy, Dave, Matt, Alex, Adam, they all were like, I think I'm gonna wait. But I remember that was my one reason for wanting to get the Xbox One, is I heard Andy talking about it, I don't know, 8 months ago, and about how you can play the monster. And so what it is, if you don't know, is it's a computer game on the consoles. I'm not sure if it's on PC. And you can play, one person plays a monster, and the rest play heroes. And you play 4 heroes versus the monster. Each of the heroes has a specific role, and it's just a match. You're not leveling up. It's not like well, I take that back. You are leveling up, but you level up off screen. It's not like Borderlands, is what I'm trying to say. And it's pretty fun. I think you should definitely check it out if you like cooperative games. It's fun to play the monster and fight your friends. It's fun to be co-op. There's different roles that each character plays. There's a trapper, an assault guy, a medic, and a support guy. And then each of those toons, avatars, characters, once you master certain weapons, you can unlock other avatars within the same class. So, for example, the support guy sort of starts out with a nod to being a dwarf type of guy. He's like a miner with chomping on a cigar. And then the next character you unlock is this robot. He looks really cool. I don't like playing the support character as much. So far, I like being the monster or the medic. I'm not a very good monster, but it's fun to play against. So far, I've been playing against Russ, Vince, some of Vince's buddies, and Andy. And since they're not, I got the game before them, I was a little ahead of them skill-wise, so I was able to kind of hold my own as a monster, which was cool. So, yeah, I like it. If you want to check it out, do so. My Xbox Live name is Stone Dogs. Russ is Red Tooth. And I don't know Andy's off the top of my head. Let's see. Looking forward to Adepticon. Adepticon's coming up soon. Haven't done much planning other than just getting the flights booked out. Andy's going to that. Dave Farr's going to that. Matt Alex is going to that. Craig and Russ are going. I'm looking forward to playing some War Machine, and I'm playing a team tournament with Matty Alex on Flames of War. I'm looking forward to that. What else? Oh, I watched the movie Fury, and it wasn't what I was expecting. I was only able to make it halfway through. Very dark, very unsettling. I know you may be saying, Rafe, it's a movie about war, and I don't want this to come out sounding wrong, but I guess I was in the mood for a tank version of Saving Private Ryan or something. So kind of the Hollywoodizing, aggrandizing view of war, which is terrible to say, but that's what I was in the mood for. And Fury shows a real, like, the just dark underbelly side of war, especially watching our U.S. soldiers depicted in this movie do things that are very, very unsettling and just make me feel. I got to a scene in the movie where Brad Pitt's character takes this younger tanker in, and they've liberated this town, this German town, and he's in he sees a young German Fräulein or woman, and he kind of goes upstairs to investigate, and I'll just leave it at that. I actually had to turn it off at that point in time from there. I started to be like, oh boy, I don't like where this was going. Also might have to do with the fact that I was watching it on Sunday morning, where my kids, my youngest is watching her shows using the iPad with the headphones on, so she's not listening and she's not paying attention, but I just started to be like, oh boy, I don't like where this is going. So I actually didn't get to see the second half of the movie. Very curious how it turns out. I don't know if I'm going to rent it again or if I'm just going to read what happens on Wikipedia. But that's the first time in a long time that a movie's done that to me. Now, I give a credit to the director and the creators of that movie. Obviously, that was the goal they wanted to accomplish, and as far as I go, they accomplished it. So that's about it. I've been wanting to play more Dragon Age, but my computer room is in the playroom, which is the coldest room in the house, and it doesn't get much heat, and I don't have a space heater. Darn it, that reminds me, I wanted to get a space heater this weekend. So I've just been too cold. I've just been playing the Xbox One instead, and been looking forward to breaking out Lord of the Rings LCG again, even solo, and I haven't done that either. So that's what's going on. Oh, I did read a nice section of, I'm trying out my new reading of The Dark Knight Returns. I did read it all. It's all recorded. I just have forgotten how to upload it as a podcast, so I have to dive into Lisbon and remember how to upload everything, because I've forgotten how to do that. I thought I could just upload the MP3 file live onto my blog, the D6GHollywood.com, but I wasn't able to. So if you're wondering from the last Hollywood Minute, Rafe, where is it? It's recorded. I just have to figure out how to upload it, and I hope to do that right now. Russ needed to get these in early, so I'm recording a little earlier. And now it's off to roof raking for my 5th time. For those of you that don't know what roof raking is, it's a real pain in the butt. Here's what it is. You get this super big, long, adjustable pole. It's got a big plastic, 90-degree angle on it, and, kind of looks like a rake, although not a fall rake where there's breaks in between the tines. It's just this big, flat thing. And you rake the snow off of your roof. Why do you do that? Well, for weight, but also because my roof is building huge ice dams. So the ice forms along the edge of the roof. It does that because the insulation isn't correct, the airflow isn't correct. And what happens is the snow acts as an insulator, forming these ice dams. If you leave these ice dams there, what can happen is water can begin to run underneath the snow, hit the ice dam, back up, and go up under your shingles and start to run down your walls. Thankfully, that hasn't happened. So what I have to do is I have to continually scrape the snow around the edge of the roof off so that two things occurs. Number one, the water just freezes on the edge and won't create a water backup situation. And number two, on a warmer day like today, by the way, warm means 30 degrees, the sun can maybe hit those ice dams a little bit and melt them. I did hear of a really cool idea where you take rock salt or salt that normally melts, put them in pantyhose, lob them up onto your roof so that they break and or just form pockets. The theory being that it creates a channel in your ice dam, letting the water run out and hit the ground. When I went to the hardware store to get that, they said, oh, no, you don't want rock salt because it'll eat your shingles away. You want some sort of other chemical product, and I forget the name of it, and of course they were all out. So apparently these are little hockey pucks that you then chuck up there, again with the goal of channeling the water so the water can escape and not go down your walls. What a lot of people tend to do is they hurt themselves by going up on ladders and they take hammers or sledgehammers. That is the exact wrong way to do it. Number one, you're very likely of slipping off your ladder. Number 2, slipping off your roof, especially if you don't tie yourself into a chimney with like a rock climbing harness, like who has those? And the other thing you do is by pounding on your roof and smashing all the ice, what do you think you're doing to these frozen shingles and the plywood and the structure underneath? I'm sure it's, I know it's not good for that. So anyway, time to wrap this up and start roof raking for my 5th time. My neck and back already hurt just thinking about it. And so, hey, until next time, happy gaming. Again, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter on the D6G Hollywood on Twitter, or my blog, the D6GHollywood.com, or the YouTube channel, Rafe Hollywood Granger. Again, haven't forgotten those videos. I'm just wrestling with which video editing program, and now, frankly, with all this winter, the time to do it. It's been a bad winter where a lot of illnesses. I had the influenza and the flu for 3 weeks, the flu and pneumonia knocked me out for 3 weeks cold, lost a lot of work, lost a lot of time for work. I'm in a huge catch-up mode, so my hobby time's been a little limited. But I don't want to let you down on a down note. Everything's fine. We're good here. And enjoying a nice iced coffee from Dunks, and like I said, off to roof rake. See ya.
This is the Dice Tower Network at Dicetowernetwork.com.
Okay, so now, on Monday, just this past Monday, which was, I believe, the 9th of February.
Yes.
Or actually, it was last Friday when your logo, which is a beautiful Spartan helmet, a nice crested helmet that everybody's familiar with from movies and TV.
It's still a Spartan helmet.
Certainly not history class.
Craig, it's still a Spartan helmet. I'm just saying.
It is still a Spartan helmet. It was replaced with, as Russ says, a different kind of Spartan helmet. I have looked. I went and again did some serious research. It is a Mjolnir helmet.
That's right.
I can't even pronounce that, so well done.
Well done.
Actually, I thought it was going to be a simple little Google search, but what I ended up in was a giant fight between Norwegians and Americans, and Mjolnir is as close as I can get, and even that was getting a bunch of Norwegians upset. So,
have you stood in front of a mirror all day practicing saying that?
Mjolnir.
That's what happens when you jam that many consonants together.
I really swear, I'm just like so hugely impressed.
Yeah, well, I try to do my back, try to do my study, my research, but for all of our listeners in Norway, I do apologize because I know that then there was this whole English Scandinavian accent is different from a Scandinavian. But anyway, so Mjolnir is where we're gonna go. Anyway, it's this. I have never played a Halo game, and because I'm not a computer guy, but I have read almost all the novels because Russ convinced me. The fluff was so cool. I needed to try to somehow sort of get into the universe, and I loved all the novels. I was bitter because the novels for these video games franchises, the novels, of course, always happen in between all the really exciting things. It's a very intriguing model where the really exciting action takes place in the video game, and then the novel sort of explains what happens between the really exciting bit and the next really exciting bit. But even I, never having played the game, recognized this helmet, and I immediately emailed Neil and went, "Wow, what does that mean?" And all he said was, "Yeah, some guys over in America whipped that up for us." So
some guys in Redmond.
See, Craig. When we had that conversation, I was in the middle of cooking.
Yeah, you were. You were in the middle of preparing for a Ray Cooney farce. For the 4 listeners out there that know anything about theater, and Neil was preparing for a dinner party with the vicar of Glastonbury and his wife, making salmon pate.
It's true.
And I believe there was going to be duck involved as well. Yeah. Now tell me, Neil, I told you no one should put on the vicar's clothing other than the vicar. Did all that work out okay?
It's good. It went well. I was slightly worried that my scallops were not going to come out properly, but that they worked. And then for the main course, the the cranberry and port sauce that I did worked out incredibly well with the duck. So it was all good.
A man for all seasons, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
And an upstanding pillar of his community, having a large, very glamorous dinner party with the vicar and his wife.
I think the word you were looking for was pillock, not pillar. But
well, I don't know. But anyway, so we had that conversation, and you were a little.
We did. I was actually, I was up to my neck and elbows in salmon pate when you got me on Skype. But hey ho.
Yeah, and I was very impressed that you had picked up. So the rumors immediately ran rampant around the internet, and oh my God, Spartan's going to get sued, and then they're not going to get sued. You can't trademark that helmet, blah blah. Which was funny for me because I always like having little inside information, of course. But and so that helmet was designed, you said, for you by Microsoft to sort of.
We had at our off-site meeting. We had a conversation that where one of the other designers said, "Wouldn't it be cool if the guys at Microsoft let us swap the helmet on the website?"
Yeah.
And we went away and we were having a conversation with the franchise team, and we said, "Look, is there any possible way that this could be done? Because it sounds like it's quite a cool idea." And a couple of days later on email, the graphic arrived, and they said, we've done this for you. Yeah, why not? Go for it. And we just really liked it because it was. We've had close to a year internally of being on this journey, and of course, we signed the contract with them quite some time ago, and we've been working on the project for quite a while. So the pent-up frustration inside the business was staggering. Everybody was kind of running around, and we knew it was coming, and we couldn't talk about it, and we couldn't talk about it externally. It was kind of killing my guys. So it was a little bit of I don't know what the best way to describe it, really, kind of a bit of a release, for want of a better expression. It's kind of just a nice thing to do, and
we did get the whole weekend giggling at the forums when we were
exactly.
That's part of the fun. So did they reach out to you guys, or how did this whole thing start? Did Microsoft call you up? Did you call them up?
I was there was a conversation took place at the offices, and I just said, look, I know this sounds crazy, but I would love to do Halo. I said, I think we could do a great job on it. And we contacted Microsoft, and with the meetings ensued, and then the guys came back and said, yep, let's do it. And,
nice.
It's been a fantastic journey. It really has. It's been.
Now let me ask you this: was a lot of Microsoft? Were there folks on the Microsoft team were familiar with you guys, or did you have to sell the whole idea?
That was the most gratifying thing.
They knew it. They knew Firestorm. They knew Dystopian Wars.
See, that's awesome.
It was great.
They're probably in the middle of a game going, "Holy crap! Neil just called us. He wanted to do Halo. This is amazing! Quick, blow that jersey up over there."
I don't think anybody gets excited when I make a phone call, but that's kind of sweet.
You never know. So that's the fact that they came back so quickly. I think that means they're pretty excited about it.
They probably kind of go, "Oh God, not him again."
He's called for the 12th time. Just tell him yes. Move on.
So Neil, some of the other rumors, of course, were that you were being bought by Microsoft. I mean, the rumors were really running rampant. What exactly is the relationship that you now have with Microsoft? What are you doing, and what are you not doing?
We have a. Spartan Games is still owned by me.
Right. Yes. Well, I would hope.
Okay, let's get this accurate. Spartan Games is owned by my wife. Right. She allows me to work there, so let's get
under suffrage.
Under suffrage, yeah.
An indentured servant.
I think if she could fire me, she would. She's stuck with me.
Yeah, well, you got to keep doing the cooking then.
Well, exactly. Yeah, although I don't know. Who knows? So no, it's Spartan Games is Spartan Games. We've still got our own IP, we've got our own games, but we have this relationship with Microsoft. It's a global IP contract where basically we will be developing games for Microsoft in the Halo universe.
That's awesome.
Very good.
And I can't help but note that you said games.
Right. So this includes the entire. So you're not limited to a particular scale or a particular, naval versus ground or anything like that.
really go into a massive amount of details on exactly where we're heading with this.
Right.
I mean, but this isn't just spaceships.
Good.
There's a lot to this project, and it's incredibly exciting. And the guys there. I mean, we Derek and I were on a call tonight with the guys discussing stuff, and the information exchange is fantastic. And also, from our point of view, what's incredibly exciting is that we're getting to we have the ability to realise models that perhaps have been talked about in the Halo universe, but have never been seen. So we've got to build them.
Oh, nice!
And we get to help develop the canon for
awesome.
it. So, I mean, if you look at the images we sent out with the announcement, there's two models there that were created by Spartan Games for Microsoft. There's the Covenant Heavy Cruiser, and there's the UNSC Heavy Carrier, and those models were not, they were designed by us to fit into the.
I noticed that because I'm a pretty hardcore Halo fan. As I'm looking at these, I'm like, those two ships I don't recognize, but you guys did such a good job folding them into the fleet. I was questioning myself. Is that like one of the guys from the background, like half a light year away in the game? Or? It's
very important for us. I mean, it's such a rich tapestry of story that it's incredibly important that we have to pay homage to all of that and to the customers as well, because these fans have been fans for many years, and we can't just kind of stomp in there and say, hey, this is how you do a war game. We're going to do it our way. We have to. We spent months and months and months. It's torturous. We had to play on Xbox Ones and 360s.
It's god awful, I'm sure.
It was terrible.
Sitting in front of my wife and saying it's research.
It's work, honey. Right.
You said you're talking rubbish. No, it really is research. So look at my massive pad of notes.
It was awful. It was terrible at the bar. We had to get all of these books.
Now get out of the room. I'm trying to complete level 6.
So we kind of. Spent a lot of time looking at that and then discussing. It's like this evening's conversation. That one of a huge amount of the conversation was to make sure that we got the interceptors and the bombers right in the phase of the game where they're deployed and used, and to make sure that they fitted with the expansion of the cannon. So there's a lot of effort going into making sure that we stay true to this. However, we have to make a game that both players can play.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no point. And so we've kind of, actually, Derek can explain the kind of the philosophy that we sort of have on the fleets.
The analogy.
Yeah.
Well, when we had a long chat to Microsoft, and they've been very generous with base materials and ways of gathering information, and so we sat down and we started to build analogies into the mindset, so that the folks like myself who are helping design the game, we thought, can we use any analogies that will help us base any decision making we do? So we took the analogy of the Covenant and the UNSC as being two types of predator. One of them is a bear. It's a slow and lumbering thing, which one swipe will take the head clean off of anything it goes for. And the other one is a hound, which requires to fight in packs and must sacrifice elements of the pack to bring down larger prey. So you've got to go in there and nip the flanks, hopefully not get hit by the claw, so that one of your guys can jump in and get the throat of their target, in this case, the bear. But of course, if you're not careful, then the bear will swing its claw and it will take the head of one of your hounds clean off. And so we were chatting about this principle of the bear and the hound, and trying to get Microsoft's take on whether or not they were happy with that kind of approach of gameplay. Because obviously, it sounds like you chaps know what you're talking about when it comes to Halo. The UNSC don't have a very good time of it. It's not, mano a mano, they're not going to stand up.
They're outclassed technology-wise. Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this, and I'm sure you cannot answer it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So you just gave 2 analogies. Did you have to come up with 4 analogies? Because there's actually 4 factions in Halo, if you count the Forerunners and the Flood.
Answer that on the grounds that it may incriminate.
So, because what's so awesome about, I just have to kind of geek out for a second here.
Let it go, Russ.
What's so awesome about you guys getting this license, I think, is, one, as a Halo fan, what has been the most frustrating is that Microsoft and Bungie and whoever else has owned the license over this time period has really lent it out to mass market game designers, right? So you've got Halo Monopoly, Halo Risk, Halo Clue, Halo, all these really
Halo Clue.
I'm not even joking. And it's not good gamery games. They've none of the what we would call really good games have built around Halo, and so it's exciting to see a great miniatures company who actually has extremely good fine detail miniature skills. Given your guys' track record, to be making really amazing Halo models, and B, someone who's done really, really good rules with fleet actions and vehicle rules, because, again, another core element of Halo is the vehicle combat on ground. I know in your webpage you hinted at ground combat, so I know you've at least announced a bit it's coming. So that's really, really exciting. And, of course, space combat, you guys have already proved you're really, really good at naval combat, so going there is fantastic. And one of the big problems when a lot of new IP games launch is there aren't enough factions. You do Star Wars and you're essentially, which is awesome, don't get me wrong, but Star Wars has got 2 factions, and now what, right? You can probably eke out a third, maybe. But Halo, you got the 4 core factions that it's mentioned, plus the Covenant themselves break up into a bunch, I don't know how many sub-factions are in there. So it seems like you guys have tons and tons of material to work with. It must be a little overwhelming.
It is a vast amount of materials. I can't really comment on other folks' games, but from our point of view, we've got a game whereby we're coming in at an interesting period of time with the release, and of course we can go up and down the timeline, to where we can bring the models and what we can embrace, because one of my favourite models is Infinity, so I'm very much looking forward to kind of like seeing Infinity on the tabletop. And Infinity's coming, so it's definitely that's going to be fantastic. Well, that model's already made, actually. That's but no, there's a huge amount. I think. You've got to be, we have to be careful with how we handle things like the floor and the technology and stuff like that, because some of this stuff is insanely powerful, and I think the Flood is kind of a fun one. But we've got a lot. There's a lot to keep us very busy with just the Covenant,
right?
And say scrapping as they are, but the flexibility. Of course, let's not forget that Halo is a developing IP for Microsoft, and will be here for many, many years to come. So of course, who knows what's coming down the corner with, we've got Halo 5 coming up, which is pretty cool stuff. Yeah. And of course, we have here beyond Halo 5. So no, it's a huge, rich vein to tap. But the good news is that there's quite a lot of war gamers over there at Microsoft that we're encountering, and it's not our conversations are not stilted by dealing with people who just don't know what we're trying to do. These guys they're on the ball, they're clued up, and we're having great conversations with them. And yes, we're very appreciative of the fact that they are engaging with us to design this game, and it's going to make Derek's life easier, knowing that there are people at the end of a telephone and email that will make these ideas happen. I don't know. What do you comments? Thoughts?
Well, obviously the beauty of the Halo universe is its diversity and how wide it is. It's had a long time to actualize itself. And it's great reading. It's good stuff. It's not. We're not talking about, yeah but no but yeah but gaming. This is proper, well written novellas that they've got. It engages millions of fans around the world. From a rules design point of view, we've been entirely focused on imagery delivery. So if people have seen it, if people have played it, if people have felt it, then it has to be present in the war games that we create. People have got to be. They've got to get what they think they're going to get, and we're really good at doing war games, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to deliver what people expect is what we will be able to deliver.
Can I ask you guys this? Because there's a definite all your games are very different, right? They have different feels. They have obviously different looks, different eras. But there are some commonalities and rules, right? So there's a certain set of mechanics that when you're playing a Spartan game or you're seeing a game being played, oh, that's a Spartan game. It's got that sort of element. Are you is sort of those core mechanics that are found in all of your other games, are they going to come into this as well? Or is it going to be a whole new thing?
Yeah, no, there's elements of that. I mean, we've actually designed a new engine, which for Halo, which is a fabulous fleet combat engine. We've got a new methodology for how we handle the dice. It'll feel very familiar, but it is it is different. It's got a kind of its own uniqueness. It's not kind of flogging a dead horse sort of thing.
It's imagery driven, isn't it? So we're using dice, but perhaps not in the way that people are expecting Spartan Games to use dice. But it still uses mechanics and types of mechanics that people would expect. But we're trying to, again, it's all going to be imagery driven. So you might not see dots on dice, but you might see other things instead.
Oh,
okay, go.
Interesting.
All right, I heard that.
I mean, I think you have to remember. I mean, we're tasked with creating a game that it's not bridging a cultural divide, but it's bridging two communities. So we've got the wargaming community to appeal to, but we've also got the Halo community to appeal to, and a lot of those guys, may well want to see spaceships and play with them, but they've perhaps never played a war game in their life.
Do you think? Right. So I hear what you're saying. So it sounds like you're trying to make, in a way, a bit of a gateway game because you're expecting that people will, for the first time. Some of these folks, Halo fans, will see this and be like, "Oh, this is interesting. I'm a Halo guy. I got to own all things Halo. I'm going to try this out." And I've never done a miniature war game before, so you want it to be accessible. Do you think there's a risk that hardcore miniature war gamers will look at it and go, "Oh, they've kind of dumbed it down"? Are you worried about that at all?
No. Well, the way we've dealt with that is we have levels of veterancy. So you can choose to play a game at a certain level of veterancy, or if you feel like you've played that part of the game and you've played enough war games to feel like you don't need to play at that level, you up your veterancy level, just like you would if you were playing a Halo computer game. Okay. Change the difficulty setting.
Oh, interesting. Cool. I like that you're looking at it as sort of a gateway game. It's sort of a way to access for new gamers to get into it. That's really cool. Have you guys looked at I know some people there's been analogies in the past of other companies when they get a big license, they kind of go down a rabbit hole with it. How are you guys dealing with that and trying to balance out this idea that you've got this amazing opportunity with Halo here, and yet you've still got a lot of other properties like Planetfall that people are really excited about. We can't get enough of it. How are you guys kind of dealing with the challenge of managing now several major initiatives got going on there?
Well, I suppose going down the rabbit hole is fine if the license you've got is Alice in Wonderland.
Good point.
But no, I mean, of course, you're always going to get sort of like commentary like that because it's sort of people think that you're going to go absolutely crazy, and it's like, oh my god, I got this huge big IP license, blah blah blah. Of course, it's exciting, and of course, it is a fundamental shift in the way that you do business. But at the end of the day, that IP belongs to Microsoft. That IP doesn't belong to me. So at some point, we don't know when, hopefully a long time from now, that IP license will no longer be something that Spartan Games does. I mean, I would kind of hope that we're partnering for a long time with each other because we're enjoying doing it, and it's working very, very well. But the other IPs are mine.
Yeah.
Firestone belongs to me. Planetfall belongs to me. Dystopian Wars belongs to me. Legions belongs to me. And Shattered Seas belongs to me. I created those IPs, and they're part of the core fabric of what Spartan Games is. And again, we built the company on the back of those, and we will continue to build the company on the back of those. It doesn't mean that we will let them go. And also, the one thing I will say is I've been working we have been working on Halo for quite some time now. And in that time, we've got Planetfall, we've done 2.0 Firestone, we've done 2.0 Dystopian Wars. We've been at this for quite a while, and we're still, we're not exactly slowing down on what we're doing with our games and our IP. So it's sort of the pieces are in place to make this tick along very nicely. Thank you very much. Plus, we've taken Halo to the world of plastic.
Right.
We had to ensure that it didn't impact our manufacturing of our other products, and therefore let our customers down. So that was a fundamentally important part of making sure we did this project correctly, was to tool it up properly and manufacture it properly.
So moving into plastics is huge, obviously, and it's a very costly new endeavor. How important was Microsoft's involvement in, obviously you've got this big corporation now that's working with you. Was their help in getting you into plastics sort of like a nice side benefit of what you're realizing from this?
It's difficult one to answer, really. I mean, the relationship on the plastics is purely one between myself, my manufacturing company, and myself.
Okay.
So from a Microsoft point of view, do you mean financially and things like that?
Yeah. Did they? Yeah. Like, were they able to help you with that, or is that just something that you were ready to do on your own, sort of?
No. That's very much a Spartan Games thing. No, I mean, sort of. Mike, with this, I didn't go to them cap in hand.
Right. No, of course not.
Their help has been tremendous in making sure that we kept the designs pure and accurate. So as we've been working on,
they've helped us with renders and presentation.
Source materials and things like that, and feedback has been there. I mean, we kind of kicked the designs around, and my boys were kind of communicating with them and communicating with the plastic. But no, this is very much this is Spartan Games has done
this.
This is our manufacturing relationship, and from a moving forward point of view, it's quite cool, because it's an interesting thing, sort of the departure, because making models in plastic is a more elongated process, and you've got to be the things that you can cheat with resin and other materials you just can't do with plastic. So therefore, that process of creating the sprues. But you throw enough talented people at it for long enough, you end up coming up with a good product. And the company that we're working with are just fantastic. I think we start cutting steel on Monday, I believe. Wow. But we've probably been at it for 18 weeks of design process on the sprues. Prior to that, of course, so there's significantly more time to go on and getting the final injectors ready. But no, it's a complicated process, but it's an incredibly satisfying and rewarding one.
And so I would imagine that with all the expertise that you're building in the plastics, that you're going to start bringing other Spartan Games, your own IPs maybe into some plastic as well. You had mentioned Spec Ops, I think, in connection with the plastics.
Yeah, it makes an awful lot of sense for us as a company to start looking at that with the volume. I mean, it's sort of, I think not all projects can suit it. Some of our, I need to use the word legacy, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but sort of like things like, it would be very hard to move a product like Dystopian Wars to plastic, especially the fact that there's 587 models or something?
Something like that.
So that will be, and of course, unless you're going to achieve a volume of scale, an efficiency of scale in terms of manufacturing, it doesn't make a lot of sense to try and retrofit to certain things. Yeah. I think it's the things you can do with some of your designs are staggering. If you take a look at things like the UNSC heavy carrier and the heavy cruiser, I think we've done some wonderful designs there. A lot of those renders you can't even see all the fun stuff going on underneath, all the undercuts and the hangar bays and all the crazy stuff. And also, the big thing that we really have focused on very hard is that we're known for detail on our resin, so we wanted to ensure that the models paid tribute to to what Microsoft has created with the imagery of the ship. So we know we've put huge levels of detail into the models. I mean, so the tooling quality and detail level is immense on this. There's nothing quick and dirty about any of this. This is all good, solid design work.
Yep.
Well, it's also
which is what we would expect.
Yeah, it's just
I mean, that's what we do, and I think it's sort of we're not going to do just. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. So it's not a.
Well, you're treating it.
It's not a case of just slamming it into plastic for the sheer hell of it. We know we're being very so methodical about how we do this, and it's one of these things where do it and do it right.
It sounds awesome because it sounds like you're treating this. There's kind of two ways a company could treat something like this. Is like, well, it's Halo, it's going to sell, so I'm not going to put the care I put into my own IP. But it doesn't sound like that at all. It sounds like you're putting in extra care because people are going to be watching it, and you want it to be awesome because you're fans of the franchise too, which sounds great. So I really can't wait to see the results of what comes out of your guys and all your hard work and see these models in person. I think it's going to be, I just can't wait. I know it's going to be amazing because your guys' stuff's always amazing. So I can't wait to see the Halo.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I mean, I think it's, we're very excited to start showing the spaceships, and we can't wait to show the ground combat and the costumes. Soon we'll start talking about the ground combat game, which is going to be the beginning of many fun things that are coming. It's going to be, that's going to be humongous. But and the idea of interconnecting the two game systems together as well. Sort of spaceships fighting in space and ground combat. It all makes sense to have it all kind of connected.
Well, you have to be able to launch a Spartan from orbit and have him land on the planet and kick Covenant butt. I think that has to be somehow.
I'll send you some pictures. I'll send you the pictures of some of the Spartans and things that we've sculpted. And
he doesn't need to bother with a shuttle, so don't even bother with that.
It's easy, Just Master Chief, the guy,
right? He can ride a bomb down. It's fine. That's how we roll.
Absolutely.
So, what's the scale roughly? Is this something like? And I know
of the fleet game.
Of the fleet game, yeah. So, is it something that's roughly the same size as a Firestorm fleet? If I'm looking at the full size capital ships, can I expect it to be roughly the same?
That was an interesting debate for us because our Firestorm is 1/10,000 scale because our spaceships are kind of small compared to the ones in the Halo universe. The Halo game is about 1/20,000 scale because when we sat and took a look at it, we had to. There were certain models that we had to embrace, or was it had. That we wanted to make sure we could kind of realise on the tabletop. And one of the things was the Covenant Assault Carrier, because it is just a beautiful model. The guys in the office are all saying, I want to make super carriers. Well, that's a lovely idea, but the problem with that is if you did that, you'd never be able to make a Paris-class frigate because it'd be about 5 mil long. So we had to sort of sit there and say, okay, how small can the smallest model be, and how big can the biggest one we think we can achieve in plastic? And so we sort of sat there until we said, okay, at 1/20,000 scale, you're looking at about 26 centimeters for an assault carrier for the Covenant.
Which is still pretty darn big.
I think
but then again, it's an assault carrier. It's allowed.
Yeah, right.
It's allowed to be. Craig. Come on.
I'm not finding fault.
I feel okay with that.
And we sat there and we thought, well, we can realise that in plastic, that is doable as a plastic model kit. So we thought, right, okay, we're happy with that. What does that do to the other end of the scale? So we started taking a look at things like the Paris-class frigate. And then that started reducing, and of course you're taking those both probably become, moderately small at that scale. You're looking at about 28, 29 mil, I think 30 mil long. So we then, Derek and I sort of sat and said, well, okay, if we are reducing the smaller ones, so we started looking at how we make squadrons work and formations and some of the clever stuff in the rules that will allow people to, deploy their own squadron formations and do almost ad hoc squadron formation on the fly and things like that. So there's a lot of really interesting mechanics at play for how the squadrons and the ships are handled because we took a long hard look at the scale. We built prototypes at everything from kind of 1/10,000th to 1/15,000th to 1/20 before we settled on what was feeling right on the table. Went back to Microsoft, had a good long conversation. Those guys were behind us, and so there we are. Which is 120,000, because that means that that my crazy model makers can make a super carry because it's only 57 inches long. They tell me.
Wow.
All right. Well, there you go.
So yeah.
Now, not including models of that size.
Yeah.
If like Russ and I were going to throw down, for instance, on an average sized game, how many models on average, just as a rough guess, would we expect to see on the table per side?
Wow, that's a crazy one. So like on Derek, I'm now laughing because Derek's now counting his fingers.
It's very late. And normally I'm quite good at this.
Normally we don't ask you to do math like this when you guys are up at like 3 a.m, but
I would say it's you. Well, that's actually.
Maybe UNSC'd have about maybe have about 75 models on the table.
Wow.
Oh.
But we're telling you huge amounts of models, but we're not telling you how they come on the table, are we?
No.
Well, you'll still. Now kind of having an argument. So just let it have.
Not amongst yourselves.
Let it out.
Yeah, we'll just have an argument.
Feel free to discuss any rules. Model counts.
They'll probably deploy,
price points.
The minimum you'll see on the table is about 19 UNST.
Okay.
And then it's a fleet game. I mean, the last time I looked at fleets invading planets and things, then you didn't really do it.
Pretty numerous.
Well, you tend to do it with more than a minibus full of people,
Right.
It's sort of so the idea being is that you'd probably we would envisage hopefully that people will kind of put between 20 and 40 models on the table. Side.
So that's much larger than, for instance, Firestorm Armada usually. So it's a larger.
It is, yes. It's a little
nice.
But it's facilitated by a different way of putting the models on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've gone up in by changing the rules, you've allowed yourself to go with larger model counts and still not have
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously,
right.
You can imagine that an awful lot of the play testing that's been done over the last 6 to 9 months has been. We've actually used a lot of the Firestorm models, so we have an awful lot of Firestorm models that are based upon the new Halo,
right?
And that are kind of, and it's playing, it's playing interestingly well. I mean, because it's sort of one of those things where it doesn't take particularly long to restart a lot of the Firestorm ships to work in the Halo engine, and vice versa. It won't take long to restart the Halo ships to work in the Firestorm rules. So it's sort of, there is a commonality of feel across both systems. But at the end of the day, Halo has got its own engine, it's got its own system, and it's designed to allow people to play fleet action quickly and tactically, and kill stuff. You want to, when a Covenant heavy cruiser opens up with a gigantic set of plasma weaponry, stuff dies. If you've got a couple of marathon cruisers hit a Covenant ship with their giant Mac cannons, then or even a Mac platform hits a ship, then they tend to put a hole straight through them.
That's awesome. That's some brutal.
You got to simulate that. If they've hit you, then it's going to hurt, sort of thing. And you got all the titanium armor to take into account, and the shields, and you've got, it's lots of cool stuff.
That's awesome.
Now, speaking of all these different cool things, of course, it wouldn't be Halo if you weren't talking about, for instance, some generic hero zipping through the fleet on his own on a bomb, doing some kind of boarding action or sabotaging some giant spaceship. Is that kind of action going to be built into the system also?
Well, Derek can go into more on that. The game splits into effectively 3 component elements. You've got you've got the way the interceptors and bombers operate, and then you've got the capital ships and the small ships, and then you've also got the boarding side of things. You can't not have boarding actions in Halo.
Oh yeah,
you have to embrace it. You've got that idea that you've got kind of a Covenant ship that's moving along because it's being boarded by a bunch of Spartans, and at some point they're going to blow it up. Mm-hmm. They might not know when it's going to happen, but it's definitely coming their way. But I mean,
because obviously people's frame of reference who've played the Halo games is as a first-person shooter a lot of the time, so they'll be expecting boarding to be a really interesting and engaging part of the game. So yes, you do. You shoot boarding torpedoes and boarding craft at an enemy ship, and in Firestorm we resolve boarding very, very simply and very quickly. What we have in Halo is a turn-to-turn mechanic whereby we can move on to the next turn, and the Spartans are still on board, kicking ass and chewing bubblegum while tearing through the Covenant grunts. And eventually...
Is that a technical term?
I believe it is.
It is.
Until eventually the Covenant have got to make a choice. They could be sending their boarding craft over to take on the UNSC heavy ships. Mm-hmm. But really, with these Spartans deployed on a big heavy battle cruiser, they should probably send their battle boarding craft over to try and save the day. Because if they don't, those Spartans are going to do what they need to do.
It's an interesting dichotomy between the two fleets, because in space, the technology advantage is on the Covenant ships attacking the UNSC ships, but in boarding, assuming there's Spartans involved, all of a sudden your Spartans way overpower most of the enemy.
Exactly, and the way to mitigate that is to actually allow you to board your own ships with your own boarding torpedoes. So if I'm playing as the Covenant and Neil boards my ships with his Spartans, I think, well, okay, I'm going to have to send my boarding torpedoes over to try and slow those Spartans down.
We got to kill the Spartans before they get to our ship. They're like a virus.
Yeah, exactly. They're very, very scary. So if as many barriers as I can put in the way of those chaps, the better. So yes, it's because every choice we've made in Halo is a cinematic or an imagery focused choice. Boarding becomes a climactic end to every game turn. So you can have instances where boarding craft are shooting across the battlefield, but it's not until the end of the turn that you know how well you've done.
Now, let me ask you this. I think you mentioned it a little earlier. You kind of hinted at that you had pretty good range in the Halo timeline, but obviously, similar to Jedi in Star Wars, the number of Spartans you'll have access to is going to depend on where you are in the timeline. Have you thought about that a lot? We've
paid a lot of attention to that. So there's certain ways that the Spartans are manifest, and that's both in all the systems that we've been designing. So the Spartans are not every single ship in your fleet's going to have a Spartan on board.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. And you might find that even in a big game, you've got access to maybe 3.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because in the time frame that we're talking about, there just aren't that many.
Right.
So is the game going to be sort of like Mech Warrior, for instance, that can be very time specific and dependent upon where the timeline of the story goes? That's going to dictate what you can field. Is this game going to sort of incorporate that kind of mechanic that'll
to a certain extent.
It's sympathetic to it. At the end of the day, if you have to be cautious to, if you're too rigid to it, then you end up with a game whereby, it's a bit like the guy who's playing the UNSC, so he says, "Okay, well, it's smart." We're doing a game where they're trying to play it to say, "How long will it take for me to die?"
Right, right.
Yeah, you got to give them the opportunity to win. They might have to kind of work a bit harder, or they might have to struggle a little bit more, or be a bit more sort of tactical. But at the end of the day, you've got to give them that opportunity, because otherwise it's dull. And people don't want to play games where they just keep getting battered.
Right.
Let me ask you this. So I'm thinking about this. There's so many cool things going on here in my head.
Here's one for you. Can you guess?
Yeah.
Where we've based the first game?
Where we've based the first game?
Well, nobody's asked us that.
Would that be Reach?
Reach is a good guess. Where is it?
Is that going to be your universal D6 generation?
Is that our final answer?
Final answer.
We will guess
Reach. Do you want to call a friend? You haven't got any friends.
Reach is a good guess.
Oh!
Ouch!
He gets mean when it's late.
Wow, he does get cranky.
See, with that.
This is where the F words come from.
Yeah, now we're living in my world, aren't we?
So,
final effing answer
is Reach.
Okay, yeah, give that man a cigar.
Yeah, woo!
For that,
Craig, well done, Craig. Good one.
Thank you.
So that's a great choice. That's going to be fantastic. So let me ask you this too. So I'm imagining now, I'm gone on to fleet building now, which I know probably it's still early days and can't talk about much of this. But I'm imagining, okay, so I could maybe put some Spartans in my fleet, but that's going to be super expensive. What about, is there going to be ability to configure fleet leadership? Like I'm thinking about like the AIs, like you got to have some kind of ability to have that Cortana feeling.
Oh, this man's just hoaching with good questions, isn't he?
How much?
And then on the Covenant side too, like you've got, are the religious guys leading it or Bruce?
Let's answer it.
Yeah.
It was a closed question, which can be answered with yes.
Very nice.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah,
Whose house? That was easy.
And
next question.
Similarly on Covenant, you got if the like the religious guys are leading it more than the brutes, for example, I can imagine their battle tactics would be different and maybe some of the options. Is that kind of stuff in there too, or?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Another closed question. Yes.
See, yes, good. I like it. Awesome. Well, are you going to go ahead, Craig?
How much? Like you've been talking a lot about working with the Microsoft guys.
Yep.
Like how much interaction is, like, are they working with you on actual rules or more like how units should act rather than how those actions would manifest, or background integration? Like what is the relationship you have with their like sort of work group?
That's interesting. That's a good question.
And it's an open question, so we'll have to answer.
I was going to say this will bring us a while.
No, they're learning.
They're getting good at this.
Do you know what? It's 3 in the morning.
I know, 2:45 in the morning. We're still laughing. How the hell is that?
As long as we can keep you laughing,
right?
Okay. It started off initially as obviously it starts off as very much a business relationship. So you're communicating at a business level.
Yeah.
You then start it then starts opening up as you start asking more and more in-depth questions. Then you start interacting with people who are deeper and deeper into the canon. And of course, we're really lucky that some of the guys there that are our close contacts are gamers and are fans of gaming. So therefore, what's happening is as we're having conversation pieces discussing the format of how we're gonna, how does titanium shield armor work, how do shields work, how do plasma weapons work? Can we give the Covenant battlecruiser this weapon? Can we do this? Can we do that? How do we handle sabers because they were prototype fighters? Blah de blah de blah. The guys start feeding back on that, so they've been reading the statistics that we gave them, so they're kind of immediately looking at the range bands effects and how we do the dice and how we do the escalation and how we do the mathematical side. So yes, it's kind of evolved into very much a two-way passing of information as they're kind of looking at it going, well, maybe we need to model this in the game and make it feel this way because that's closer to the canon. Yeah. And at which point we'll say, well, okay, that's kind of cool, but what about this in the game? So it's actually kicking around quite nicely. It's not a simplistic, we have the license, have some money, end of story. It's very much to it, and it's really
they are very much involved.
Oh, very much, and I tell you, I honestly think the reason behind that is because the guys want to play it.
That's awesome.
Nice. So that's exactly what Halo fans are going to want to hear
that's
too.
Exactly right.
That relationship is now. Tell me, do you have a better or worse relationship than the director and writer of 50 Shades of Grey?
Wow. How did that even get in here?
What's 50 Shades of Grey?
It's when you're painting and you want to do grayscale, so you kind of give a black and white. And that's never mind. Okay, so anyway, you've mentioned a couple times, both of you.
Before we let you go, we got to ask this question.
Yeah, and I think we're heading into territory where we're just going to get shut down, but we got to go there.
We got to ask.
We got to do that. We got to do this.
Let's just cover this out. Right, let's get it out there.
Right. We're just once it's out there, it's out there.
Okay. No, we're not a couple.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, it's fine.
We just want to be clear about this.
We were separated early at birth, however.
I am sensing that there is a kinship.
Yes.
But I will say that if we were, he'd be the woman.
I beg your pardon.
Wow. Okay, we're going to move right on.
We've got to move on. This is what we apologize.
This is what happens at 3 in the morning. Yes, it's not their fault.
Okay.
So we got to let you go soon here. We really want to thank you again for all the time, but you've mentioned several times, you do hint at your webpage, the ground combat game. I know it's still way early days and you're really focused on the space combat. Can you give us any teasers or little bits of excitement around the ground combat stuff?
It's on Reach.
That's a good. How about scale? Can you tell me about scale? No, maybe.
No, no.
Oh, you can. You know, you almost did.
No, I can't.
How many varieties of warthog will I have access to?
Sorry?
How many varieties of warthog will I have access to?
All of them.
Oh, good. All of them's an excellent choice. Excellent. Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Say I can't wait. I'm so pumped. It doesn't matter.
No,
it's going to be great.
Spartans, grunts, elites,
jackals,
hunters,
scorpions,
UNSC Marines,
banshees, ghosts,
banshees, aircraft. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
hitting
good.
On all cylinders there. Now we have missed a couple details that I think are probably going to be key when the show airs. When can people expect to hope to see the naval? Well, first of all, do you have a name for the naval combat game?
Yes.
They're clamming up, Craig. They're clamming up. It's over.
Considering how late it is.
We got to dispatch Charlie. Get him over there.
We're still discussing a couple.
Yep.
Microsoft. So I can tell you that the word Halo is in it.
Good.
That's exciting.
That's probably about as much as I can give you right now.
Okay.
But as soon as we locked it down with the guys, it's yours. I promise.
Well, I got to tell you, when I tweeted out that you made the announcement on Monday, it was the most favorited and retweeted tweet I've ever had. Now, admittedly, I've only made 500 tweets in my entire life, but still, it was a very important, powerful tweet. Okay, so we don't know what the name is, but do we know at all even a vague idea of when we might see the game?
Yes.
And what might that be?
There, see, they know.
If
they're not telling.
If you come to Salute, I'll show you it there.
I'll just jump right on an airplane.
That's huge though. So it'll be premiered at Salute.
Yeah, it'll be there,
or at least showed at Salute. Awesome. Okay. That's exciting.
It'll be out.
It'll be out at Salute. Ooh, that's awesome.
No,
that's what I heard. I heard that.
I heard it. We're going to hold you to it.
That's what I heard.
I'm trying to work out my quarters. July latest.
July this year
of 2015.
Really? Holy
nice!
That's awesome. That is awesome. So
now,
that's fantastic.
I have a question that just popped into my head that has nothing to do with any research whatsoever.
That's okay.
Is it going to and you might not be able to know, you might know it, not answer me, you might start getting spiteful because it's so late.
Just ask.
But is it going to be like Firestorm or like all of your games? You've got a rule book and then you're buying fleets. Are you going to structure it like that, or is it going to be sort of like an introductory box game that might be a little more easy to get people again as a gateway game?
Yes.
Nice.
All right. I think.
Well, Craig, we got to let these guys go.
I'm actually feeling guilty now.
Oh, Dark 30 over there. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. I know you're very, very busy, obviously, with a million things going on. And it's, of course, literally 3:30 in the morning right now. So, again, I really appreciate your dedication and commitment to letting your fans know what's going on and sharing it with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we are honored that you would go through all this for us.
It's been fun, guys.
It's been a real pleasure. We've had a lot of fun.
All right.
Awesome. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
See you later, guys.
This Give Children Notice is brought to you by our fine patrons over at Patreon. Without them, we seriously would not be going on today. And instead, not only have you guys been great in supporting us, but we have now shattered our final goal where Russ and I never even thought we could go. And now we have to come up with a whole new set of goals that we can try to reach with your help. So go ahead, go on over to D6 Generation, click on the icon, check out our video. If it looks like it makes sense to you, just kick in a couple bucks, join the other people that have supported the show and making it better. And now we have to come up with these new goals, and we're going to be asking our patrons to help us. They join us in chat rooms with our guests. There's all kinds of cool stuff that we can do that Patreon lets us do. And in this particular segment, I would like to specifically thank Jeremy Danielson, Dean Gilbert, hey Dean, Joe Ewer, how you doing, Joe? Jeremy, don't want you to feel left out. Nick Pacholski, hey Nick, and Tyler Baginski. So thank you guys, and thank everybody for supporting the show. Did you ever notice that even when you're a collector and you collect things, there are some things that you collect that you don't intend to collect? I think this is a revisitation, if you will, of a much, 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 much earlier Did You Ever Notice, but there's been 162 of them now, so I'm bound to repeat once in a while. And I'm talking right now about cardboard boxes. I have so many cardboard boxes right now stacked up all around the pub, it's embarrassing. And most of them have one or two things in them. Of course, none of them are labeled, so I don't really know what's in any of them. And it's just, I have stacks of them. And because whenever I get shoes or, let's say, a big giant shipment of buildings, N-scale buildings from Japan, or a nice box of resin from England, for instance, I've got the box and I don't want to throw the box out. Karen immediately tries to throw the box out. I'm like, no, I need it. My son now is trying to throw the boxes out. Like, Dada, why you need a box? I was like, I don't know. I might need to keep something in it. And so I have all these boxes, and they've all, each box has one or two things in it, not a lot. They're not full. As you guys know, I recently finished putting together my Horus Heresy army, and so I've got all the boxes that all of my 40K bits are in, and I'm trying to consolidate them because I used a whole bunch in that army and get those back up in the attic so that I can clear the pub for PattyCon, which is right around the corner and going to cause all kinds of problems because I have to clean the whole room. And of course, I'll be using the shelves that I addressed earlier in an earlier episode of Did You Ever Notice, despite the fact that they're sort of canted to one side. But I've got all these boxes. And so, when you would think when I need to transport something from point A to point B, I have boxes now to hold them in. The problem is, I think there's some sort of space warp kind of effect going on in McNerdigan's pub where, like, I know I have a billion boxes. I can see them all right now from where I'm sitting in my chair in the lovely little studio in the corner. But yesterday morning, when I needed to transport all of my Planetfall stuff that I don't have battle foam for yet, and all of my terrain, which I didn't end up using because we ended up playing with missions right out of the in beginning book, which sets up your terrain for you, and all the terrain, it comes right out of the 2-player box starter set. So I had all of this awesome terrain that we didn't end up using, but I needed to transport all that to the store. So I thought, I'll just go in. I've got like 5 minutes of spare time in the morning as I'm trying to rush out to get to school. I come down here, and of course, what am I missing? That's right. I'm missing a box of the exact size that I'm looking for to transport what I need. And that happens every time. Like, there's some sort of strange space folding thing that occurs where whatever boxes of the size I need are in sort of a pocket of space-time that folds shut when I come in with a specific need. Like, the room is intelligent and it senses exactly what I need and folds time and space to hide the actual boxes that I need. Because the next time I come in here, I know I'm going to find them as long as I don't need them. So I have one of the pieces of terrain is an awesome factory that I've tweeted out a bunch of pictures. It has a smokestack that is approximately 8 feet. Yeah, that's quite it's an orbital elevator. No, it's about 8 inches tall, this big smokestack that's part of this big factory. Of course, there's no box that can fit that. So what you need is like a box that has no top because it's 8 inches straight up, or you're going to have a big deep box and you're going to reach inside. There's a bunch of wasted space in your car or whatever. So I ended up carrying that in a shoebox that I couldn't close, and it's got like one of those hinged lids. So that was ridiculous. And then I ended up with all of my Planetfall stuff. I mean, Romeo's probably tossing in his grave in the future because it was just like scattered in this big giant box that it wouldn't fit in because I wasn't anticipating having to transport it. So I didn't have time to make room in any of my other transports. So the key is I don't get it. I have giant stacks of boxes, and yet I never have a box that I need, which is why I always save all of my boxes. See? And then it starts this spiraling effect where I save every box I have, and then when I need a box, it's not there. So I think I might be getting paranoid in my old age, but at the same time, it is irrefutable that I save every box that I ever get, and I never have the right size box when I need it, and I don't understand it. I have stacks of boxes. I could almost be on a Hoarders episode or My Strange Addiction, the box edition. And I know I'm not alone. I've talked to other people who you never can tell what you need, what you're going to need to transport. So I've got all these boxes, and I've never got the box that I need, and that's the key. And I think I'm going to leave you with that thought. It's a short Did You Ever Notice this time around. It's late. We're all scrambling to try to get everything up and running and ready for vacation. This box, actually, let me tell you a little side story, because the very first Did You Ever Notice, of course, this was based, maybe not of course, because I don't think it's a very good homage, but it was based on Andy Rooney's segment from 60 Minutes, God rest his soul. And I was never a big 60 Minutes fan. I never watched them a lot, but I had just for whatever reason watched 60 Minutes, or at least caught Andy Rooney's segment within a week of the very first time we recorded a podcast. And his segment was on boxes, and it was right around Christmas time. It wasn't right around Christmas time. It was February. So it was, like January, I think, when I saw this segment. And he was talking about boxes and how they just accumulate, and you always have boxes. You keep boxes all year long. And then when Christmas time comes around, you don't have any boxes that the size that you need. And I thought that's ridiculous. At the same time, funny. At the same time, true. And then when we were trying to come up with segments, and all the segments, the rapid fire and Did You Ever Notice, were both on the fly very quickly. We decided we needed these small segments sort of to break up the larger segments in the show. And they were just like, I think I have an idea. I've got this Mickey Rooney, different guy, this Andy Rooney thing that we'll end with, and I'll be sort of curmudgeonly. And of course I was at the beginning, the grumpy gamer. And that's sort of, my own grumpy gamerness transcended and came through eventually. But, so very early episodes, you might notice I'm sort of putting on a voice, and I stopped that soon after we started, but it all started with boxes. And I've always thought, I'm going to do a segment on boxes. I'm going to do a Did You Ever Notice about boxes, and it'll be everything coming back around. And here we are. And I don't know if I've ever done one on boxes, all on boxes before. But here I am, talking about boxes, and it's true now as it was 6 or 7 years ago when Andy Rooney was talking about his boxes. So that is all I've got to say about that. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you, patrons from Patreon, for your support and your confidence in us and your faith in us. And thank you for shattering this last goal. And we look forward to setting more stuff and building more stuff and using your support to bring the podcast to the next level. So thank you, all of you, and good night.
Achievement unlocked. You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@thed6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
To be honest with you, our first set of meetings are until 9 o'clock in the morning, so we've got almost got minutes to sleep.
Hey, there you go. You'll be fine.
It'll be great.
Well, in that case, why don't we go ahead and we'll just jump right into it and get you guys back to bed as soon as possible.
Right.
Can I just go on record to say not together before you end that conversation?
No. Well, I left that to you, Neil. You could fill in the blanks as you wish.
Okay, I'm not filling any blanks in.
Wow.
Probably not my blanks.
Yeah.
All righty then. I seem to,
Right. And on that note, we have good levels.
All right. We just tested all our levels on that one, so that's good.
Very good.
Your blanks are well filled in.
What the hell? Travel all this way to be insulted.
Yeah,
Hey.
well,